Shin Yan and I married young, yet we spent half our lives in mutual hatred. He hated me for my presumptuous cleverness, for insisting on curing his amnesia, which led to his beloved's fatal fall from the cliff. I hated him for shifting his affections, for losing his memory when our bond was deepest, and for pledging his life to another. For 10 years of marriage, we maintained a facade of harmony while our hearts were estranged, a fact known to all as the portrait of a marriage in name only. Yet, when he was diagnosed with a slow-acting poison and everyone urged him to divorce me and remarry, he carried me in his arms, knelt before the door of a reclusive master physician, and counted 999 times, all in a desperate bid to secure a sliver of hope for my survival. In my final moments, Shin Yan took me to the place where we first pledged our love. His tears fell ceaselessly upon my cheek as he whispered, "Mingy, I have fulfilled my duty as a husband to you. If I could live my life over, I beg you, do not exhaust yourself seeking cures for me again. I wish to wipe all memories clean and learn to love her properly." Grief flooded my heart. The bond of our youth had long become a burden to him. I should never have been so stubborn, ruining half his life. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day I sought a doctor for Shin Yan. This time, I stopped the physician from performing the acupuncture and personally escorted him back to the one he loved. 1. Miss Xia. Are you certain you wish to proceed with the acupuncture for the young master? Treating amnesia carries significant risks. The Marquis's chances of a full recovery are slim, perhaps 1 in 10. The old physician's words echoed from my past life. I had heard them once before, but this time, the excitement and joy in my heart had long since vanished. I pressed down on the physician's hand as he was about to administer acupuncture to Shin Yan, and said softly, "Let it be." I then extended my own arm, letting the physician take my pulse. It was confirmed that I had been afflicted with a slow-acting poison since childhood, a condition now too entrenched to reverse. I retrieved the marriage contract with Shin Yan and personally went to the Shin residence to call off the engagement. Shin's mother clutched my hand desperately, tears streaming down her face. "Mingy, you can't break it off. If you don't marry A Yan, he'll surely lose his mind." I gave a faint smile and produced the letter Shin Yan had written to Jiang Yu after losing his memory. The familiar handwriting, in every word and line, poured out his profound affection for another woman. "My health is failing, and I have no wish to be a burden to Shin Yan. Since his heart belongs to another, I will step aside and let him go." In my past life, Shin Yan went missing on the battlefield. I searched for him for 3 long, desperate years. Yet, in a small village not far from the border, I witnessed his wedding ceremony to another woman. I had my men seize him, render him unconscious, and then pleaded with a physician to use acupuncture in an attempt to treat his amnesia. The day he regained his memory, Jiang Yu threw herself off a cliff. From that moment on, a chasm opened between Shin Yan and me, one that could never be bridged. For 10 years of marriage, we lived together in name only, our hearts worlds apart. It wasn't until the chronic poison took hold that Shin Yan finally entered my courtyard. He defied everyone's objections and took me out of the manor to seek a cure. For 5 long years, though my body was beyond saving and slowly failing, I beheld the world's most breathtaking sights. I know he only remembered my wish to travel the world when my days were numbered. He was willing to fulfill his duties as a husband in what little life I had left. But the affection we once shared had long since vanished without a trace. I raised my hand to wipe the tears from the corner of my eye, forcing a smile. For Shin Yan and me, this is the best possible ending. He didn't want to repeat the mistakes of the past, and neither did I. After leaving the Marquis' estate, I went to see Jiang Yu. When she saw me, she quickly gestured for me to sit down and explained, "A Yan has gone out. There's no telling when he'll be back." I knew she didn't want Shin Yan to see me. I simply murmured "Hum" and fell silent. After a long, heavy silence, Jiang Yu finally couldn't hold back any longer, and tears welled up in her eyes. "Miss Xia, I know you and A Yan were betrothed in your youth, and your bond was deep and sincere. If he were to remember the past, he would undoubtedly return to your side without a second thought. I fell for him the moment I saw him, and my love for him is no less than yours. You have no idea how overjoyed I was when I found him and learned he'd lost his memory. I thought I finally had a chance to be by his side. I knew he would leave eventually, but I just wished that day would never come." Her body trembled as tears fell one after another, hitting the ground. I didn't make a sound, my gaze shifting instead to Shin Yan, who had been standing at the doorway all along. The look in his eyes was inscrutable, his hands clenched into fists, as if a torrent of fury was about to crash down upon me at any moment. The man who once vowed to protect me for a lifetime was now glaring at me for the sake of another. If I dared utter a single, cutting word, he would surely lunge forward and seize my throat in a death grip. a tumult of conflicting emotions churned within me, having been reborn. I will never again be so determined to win Xinyan back to my side as I was in my past life. I let out a long sigh. A smile curling at the corner of my lips. Jiangyu, I won't be the villain who parts a loving couple. I've only come to take you both back to the Marquis estate. Jiangyu froze, her eyes widening involuntarily. Yan and I, going back to the Marquis estate together. I gave a slight nod. Xinyan doesn't wish to be parted from you. Naturally, you should leave together. We'll set off in an hour. I paused, maintaining a superficial smile. The Marquis and Marchioness are also waiting for you both to return with them. A brilliant light of surprise flashed in Jiangyu's eyes. She rushed into Xinyan's arms, wrapped her arms tightly around his waist, and exclaimed, I'm so happy I can go home with you, before immediately bustling off to pack her things. Xinyan's tense body finally relaxed, his gaze softened, and his voice carried a hint of remorse. I was just afraid Yaya would get hurt. Please don't take it to heart. Jiangyu was the only one in his eyes, yet he had completely forgotten that, upon his triumphant return to the capital, when countless young maidens threw flowers to express their affection, he was utterly annoyed and declared outright that his heart and eyes held only his betrothed, Xiaomingyi, and that this devotion was unwavering. He would even forge a dagger for me with his own hands. In the future, if anyone rushes up to you professing their love for your husband, just flash this dagger. That'll scare them off. My hand instinctively went to the dagger concealed at my waist. This blade had never left its sheath, yet I no longer had the right to wield it. After bringing the two of them back to the Marquis estate, I was first met with the joyous atmosphere of the young master's return. Everyone was chattering away, introducing themselves, but I alone remained silent. Finally, Xinyan turned his gaze to me. Miss Xia, and you? I curled the corner of my lips, putting on an expression that was both pleased and helpless. Brother Yan, have you even forgotten your most beloved sworn sister? What about your promise to find me a husband? Have you forgotten that too? As my words fell, the expressions of those around us stiffened. Xinyan, however, seemed completely oblivious. He naturally reached out and ruffled the top of my head. I did forget. But since you've reminded me, I will certainly find you the very best husband. Before I could even leave the Marquis estate, my attention was caught by the flurry of servants coming and going. I took a few steps closer and saw them smashing and destroying the things Xinyan and I had cherished and protected for years, the portraits we painted together, the carefully prepared birthday gifts, and the white jade hair crown I gave him when we pledged our love. Everything was shattered into pieces before my very eyes. My breath caught in my throat, and a sharp, sour pang twisted in my heart. Xinyan came up behind me, his voice low. Now that I have Yaya, it's only natural we can't be this close anymore, as brother and sister. She cried when she saw these things. I couldn't bear to see her hurt, so I just destroyed them all. I bit down hard on the tip of my tongue and spun around in a blind panic. Suppressing the tremor in my voice, I said, You're right, let's destroy everything you ever gave me, too. With that, I immediately sent someone back to the manor to fetch every single item Xinyan had given me, leaving nothing behind. Then, under his indifferent gaze, I proceeded to destroy them, one by one, with my own hands. My already shattered heart, amidst the cacophony of breaking sounds, could never be pieced together again. For the next few days, I did not leave the Marquis estate. I watched with my own eyes as every trace of me was erased. The lakeside pavilion Xinyan built for me was torn down, and the entire lake was planted with Jianyu's favorite lotus flowers. The pavilion where we often met was sealed off by him, becoming a derelict storage room piled with Jianyu's discarded belongings. Even the wall of climbing roses he had planted specifically for me in his courtyard was uprooted, replaced by the lush green ivy that Jianyu adored. On the day the roses were torn out, Jianyu finally appeared before me. She stood before me, deliberately unpinning the jade pendant from her waist and holding it out for me to see. Ayen found an old design for a dragon and phoenix pendant among a pile of relics. He cut his hand several times making this for me, she said. He told me to consider it our token of love. She fastened the pendant back at her waist. Do you think it suits me? A pair of phoenix and dragon jade pendants. One whole piece split in two, for lovers to each wear a half. This was the very jade pendant I had most wanted to wear with Xinyan. I chuckled, giving Jianyu a once-over. A fine jade for a beauty, a perfect match indeed. Yet Jianyu's expression suddenly darkened. This pendant isn't worthy of me, who drew the blueprint, and who favored the dragon phoenix pendant. You know the answers better than I do. Clutching the jade pendant with white-knuckled fury, she hissed through gritted teeth, You claim you want to step aside for us, but I can't be at ease. In the past, Ayan was deeply, hopelessly in love with you. I must make him give up on you for good. I furrowed my brow tightly. What are you trying to do? Before the words had fully left my mouth, the jade pendant was hurled violently to the ground, shattering into two pieces. With swift, decisive movements, she snatched up the sharper half. A ruthless glint flashed in her eyes as she drew it forcefully across her slender wrist, flesh torn open, blood streaming down. Before I could even process what was happening, I heard her let out a piercing scream. A force slammed me aside, and my back crashed hard against the unyielding wall. An intense wave of pain washed over me instantly. A metallic taste filled my mouth as a warm trickle of blood began to flow steadily from the corner of my lips, as the dizziness before my eyes slowly cleared. I saw Xinyan trembling all over, cradling Jiang Yu's arm with utmost care as he roared, "Where is the physician? Fetch the physician at once." Yeah, does it hurt? Don't be afraid, I'm right here with you." Jiang Yu looked at Xinyan, then threw herself into his arms with a sob of grievance. "Ayen, the jade pendant you gave me, someone has smashed it. The Marquis estate is simply awful. Everyone there believes I'm not good enough for you. And that's why they dare to bully and humiliate me so freely." Her tears pierced Xinyan's heart, and his own heart ached so fiercely that he trembled uncontrollably. His voice was icy. "Who dared to shatter your jade pendant? Who dared to humiliate you?" Jiang Yu initially just wept in his embrace. Under his persistent questioning, she finally looked up, glanced at me cautiously, and then began to tremble violently. Xinyan's dangerous gaze fell upon me. Agony still racked my body, stunned. I protested. I didn't. What good would breaking her jade pendant do me? Before I could finish my explanation, Xinyan cut me off with a cold voice. "Of course it does you no good. You were merely venting your spite." He picked up Jiang Yu and shot a glance at the surrounding servants. "Lock her in the woodshed to repair the pendant. She doesn't come out until it's fixed." The servants exchanged a glance, then without hesitation, they dragged me off and locked me in the woodshed. The woodshed was cold and dark. The pain in my chest hadn't eased in the slightest. I mustered all my strength to break free from their grip and tried to run, but one of the servants shoved me back viciously and locked the door. "Miss Xia, the young master's orders are not to be disobeyed." I curled up on the floor. Only when the pain had subsided somewhat did I get up. By the faint light filtering through the window, I fumbled around, painstakingly trying to piece the jade pendant back together. The sky grew darker, and the pain in my eyes became unbearable. Only when I could no longer feel the cracks in the jade pendant did I straighten up and push open the woodshed door. Holding the pendant, I carefully placed it before Xinyan. Without even a glance, he took it casually, then let it slip from his hand. Shattering it once more. "Yaya doesn't like the dragon phoenix pendant. Forget about this one. Next time, just stay away from her." I watched helplessly as the jade pendant I had painstakingly repaired, enduring the agony, shattered once more. A bitter, self-mocking laugh escaped my lips. Everything from the past has already faded away. The pendant that symbolized that past has no place in this world anymore. 3. Although Lord and Lady Shen did not care for Jiang Yu, they had no wish to upset their son, so they opened their manor gates, inviting a host of guests and began preparing for the wedding ceremony. Standing on the periphery as Xinyan's sworn sister, I couldn't help but feel the guests' gazes continually drifting toward me. Everyone knows the eldest daughter of the Xie family was betrothed to the heir since childhood. Who could have foreseen that after losing his memory, he would marry some peasant girl instead? It's truly pitiful. Miss Xie has spent these years searching for the young master, and in doing so, she's missed her prime marrying age. I fear her prospects for a good match are now quite slim. She truly lives up to her reputation as a renowned lady of the capital. If it were me, I'd have caused an uproar at the Marquis' estate and petitioned the emperor himself to stop this marriage. The hushed whispers had not yet ceased when Xinyan, beaming with joy, entered hand in hand with Jiang Yu. "Bow to heaven and earth." Xinyan and Jiang Yu bowed. His gaze lingered on her face beneath the bridal veil, his affection so intense it seemed he wished to convey it right through the fabric. "Second bow to." Before the words could be finished, a piercing scream cut through the hall as dozens of masked men brandishing blades stormed in. Panic erupted among the guests, wine cups and dishes shattered, littering the floor. 2. My heart hammered like a drum. Instinctively, I looked for a place to hide, but the moment I stepped back, the terrifying, icy edge of a blade was pressed against my throat. The masked man's voice was cold and menacing. "Come with me." I didn't dare resist. As I followed his order and walked out of the hall, a sharp pain exploded at the back of my neck, and I was knocked unconscious. I was only roused by the sound of Jiang Yu's furious, interrogating voice. "Why did you have to make your move on my wedding day? And I told you. I wanted you to tie me up, and then framed Xiamingi. Was that so hard to understand? You useless fools. My mind was clear, but I didn't move a muscle. Listening to their conversation, my thoughts gradually began to clear. Jiang Yu intended to frame me by endangering herself, but the kidnappers took it upon themselves to abduct me as well. No, perhaps these weren't even people Jiang Yu hired, because I saw their sabers. They were of a style unique to the barbarian tribes. These men are most likely the barbarian tribes defeated at the border. They've snuck into the capital, probably seeking revenge against Xinyan, the very man who crushed them. It wasn't long before Xinyan arrived with his soldiers and surrounded the area. The kidnappers pushed Jiang Yu and me to the edge of the cliff, shouting at Xinyan, "Xinyan, one is your former fiancée, the woman you once loved deeply. The other is the woman you gave up everything to marry after you lost your memory. Your old flame or your new bride, which will you choose?" Seated on his horse, Xinyan's gaze fell upon the blood seeping from Jiang Yu's neck, and his eyes turned murderous in an instant. "If you dare lay a finger on Yaya, I will slaughter every last one of your barbarian kin." The biting wind dried the tears on my cheeks, and I gave a bitter, wry twist of my lips. Of course, Xinyan would naturally only choose the one he loved. The kidnapper looked at me and suddenly laughed. "Miss Xia. My apologies for making you sad right before your death, but don't worry, Miss Jiang will be joining you soon enough." With those words, he spun around and shoved us violently toward the edge of the cliff. Half my body dangled over the edge, and I gritted my teeth, desperately gripping the blade of the kidnapper's knife. A sharp pain shot through my palm. In one swift motion, I yanked out my hairpin and drove it hard into the kidnapper's neck. Xinyan's men instantly opened fire, taking down the other kidnappers. Biting back the pain, I dragged Jiang Yu, who was paralyzed with fear on the ground, away from the cliff's edge. But I hadn't gone far when the dying kidnapper, with his last ounce of strength, grabbed my ankle and hurled me over the cliff. As I fell, weightless, I saw Jiang Yu safely throw herself into Xinyan's arms. A faint smile touched my lips. Not bad, in this second life, I've finally fulfilled Xinyan's wish from our past. Dying once more held no terror for me now. I closed my eyes and waited in silence for the final impact. The wind howled, and within its roar, I thought I heard a heart-wrenching cry. When I opened my eyes again, I saw the imperial physician taking my pulse with a heavy sigh. Seeing me awake, his expression was complicated. "Miss Xia, I truly cannot tell if your luck is good or bad. You were unconscious at the bottom of the cliff for 3 days. The poison in your body kept the beasts at bay. So you managed to keep your life, but as for this poison, this old man can only suppress it, not cure it." I gave a faint smile and tried to move, only to find that every part of me ached, but thankfully, I'm still alive. I turned to ask the imperial physician, "Sir, has no one come to see me these past few days?" The physician looked at me with a touch of pity. "You're asking about Lord Shen. He hasn't. When the Marquis's household brought you to me, I inquired. The young mistress was badly frightened, and Lord Shen has been at her side, not leaving for a moment." I nodded, and a sense of acceptance washed over me, as he should be. Just as I was about to close my eyes and rest, a figure rushed right in front of me. Xiaoyi, looking at the man in armor, covered in the dust of travel, my eyes instantly welled up with tears. A plaintive whimper escaped my lips before I could stop it. It hurt so much. The man held me protectively in his arms, his gentleness as if I were a priceless treasure. "Don't be afraid," he whispered. "I'll take you away from here." The moment my injuries showed signs of improvement, my brother took me away from the capital. The bustling city I had grown up in slowly faded into the distance. I wiped away my tears and did not look back. "Xinyan, you have found your happiness again. From now on, let us never meet again, in life or in death." Jiang Yu was severely traumatized, plagued by nightmares every night. To comfort her, Xinyan stayed by her side day and night, never leaving her alone. One day, after finishing her medicine, Jiang Yu was brought to tears by its bitterness. "Why isn't there any sweet-tasting medicine in this world?" she lamented. With a gentle smile, Xinyan popped a sweet plum into her mouth. "Then I might as well go study medicine, specializing in how to make sweet medicine just for you." As the words fell, a strange scene suddenly flashed into Xinyan's mind. It was a splendid, brightly lit room, where a medicine pot was bubbling away. The girl on the bed was pale, covering her nose as she complained. If only all the medicine in the world were sweet. Sitting by the girl's bedside, he smiled with a mix of fond indulgence and helplessness. "Then I'll go consult the medical texts. I promise to concoct a medicine that will cure you and still taste sweet." With that, he made as if to rise. Startled by his immediate resolve, the girl quickly grabbed his hand, her voice turning pleading. "Ayen, I was just venting a little. Don't take it so seriously. With a solemn expression, Shen Yan spoke softly. I take every word you say to heart, if you wanted it. I'd pluck the moon from the sky for you. The girl laughed joyfully at his words, but the Shen Yan standing outside the memory strained in vain to make out the details of her smiling face. His heart clenched in a series of tight, painful spasms, for his present self, and for the Shen Yan within that memory. He cherished this girl as if she were the very sun and rain of his world. To lose her would be to be left with nothing but endless desolation. Who is it? Could it be Xiaomingyi? Shen Yan's heart pounded wildly, a desperate urge to grasp onto something, anything, surging within him. But why is it that the tighter you clench your fist, the faster what you hold slips away? He remembered the kidnapping on the day of his wedding to Jiangyu. When Xiaomingyi and Jiangyu were pushed to the edge of the cliff, he was so terrified he could barely breathe. Seeing Xiaomingyi risk injury to drag Jiangyu back from the cliff's edge made his heart ache so much he could hardly stand. So he slaughtered the barbarians in a frenzy, all to rescue the one he loved as quickly as possible. But as he embraced Jiangyu, Xiaomingyi was thrown off the cliff by the kidnappers. Reason told him to send his men to search the base of the cliff, yet he couldn't stop himself from shoving the weeping Jiangyu aside and charging toward the edge, howling in anguish. But it shouldn't have ended this way. Shen Yan was lost in thought. She was just a sworn sister he grew up with. She shouldn't matter more than his own wife. But what if the person who suddenly appeared in his memories was Xiaomingyi? Was she really just his sworn sister? Shen Yan abruptly rose to his feet. Jiangyu stared at him in astonishment. Yan. Shen Yan lowered his gaze, pressing his lips together. Xiaomingyi is still at the Imperial Hospital. I should go. Tears welled up instantly in Jiangyu's eyes. If you go to see her, will you come back? Shen Yan couldn't understand why Jiangyu was so terrified of him meeting Xiaomingyi. He paused for a moment. Yes, I will. I just have some questions to ask her. Jiangyu lowered her gaze, tears falling silently. Had Shen Yan regained his memories? If he had, what was she supposed to do? She clutched desperately at Shen Yan's robe. Do you really have to go? I'm so afraid. She started trembling again. Shen Yan sighed, choosing not to call out her clumsy act. Having stayed by Jiangyu's side day and night, even he, as oblivious as he was, had begun to notice something was off. Jiangyu usually ate and slept soundly. It was only when he suggested visiting Xiaomingyi that she would put on a show of terror. She was afraid, but if Xiaomingyi was merely his sworn sister, why would Jiangyu be so fearful? Could it really be true, as the kidnapper said, that Xiaomingyi was his former fiancée? But if Xiaomingyi truly had that kind of relationship with him, how could she have just stood by and watched him marry Jiangyu? He fell silent for a moment, then pulled the trembling Jiangyu into his embrace. Since he had chosen Jiangyu, what was the point in dredging up the past? He had no wish to cause his beloved any pain or sorrow. 6. Shen Yan never mentioned Xiaomingyi again, and things with Jiangyu went back to the way they were, yet in his quiet moments, those doubts would always resurface. If he and Xiaomingyi had truly been so close in the past, how heartbroken must she have been when she learned he had fallen for Jiangyu? Yan, do you not want me anymore? Shen Yan snapped back to reality, meeting Jiangyu's tear-filled, accusatory gaze. I'm sorry, yeah, my mind wandered again. Jiangyu bit her lip hard, not a trace of a smile on her face. You've been so distracted lately. Let's go stay at the temple for a few days. Shen Yan was silent for a moment. All right. It would be a good chance to get you a protective charm. Xianghua Temple is an imperial temple, accessible only to high-ranking officials and nobility. Aside from Shen Yan and Jiangyu, the only other resident was a perpetually drunk wastrel. Shen Yan knew him. He was the young heir of Prince Duan's household, the most unruly and untouchable scoundrel in the capital. Upon first meeting Shen Yan and Jiangyu, he sneered mockingly. Shen Yan, so this is the peasant girl you brought home. How utterly provincial. She doesn't hold a candle to Mingyi. Jiangyu couldn't bear to hear such words. Trembling with rage, Shen Yan's heart ached for her. He shielded her behind him, his voice turning icy. Mind your words, Your Highness. But the Crown Prince of Duanwang seemed to be doing it on purpose, each remark more vile than the last, until Shen Yan could no longer contain his fury and suddenly threw a punch at his face. The rush of the punch was mingled with Jiangyu's panicked sobs. They were trading heavy blows, neither willing to back down. As another punch connected with his cheek, a memory suddenly flooded his mind. Mingyi, he, Shen Yan, builds pavilions, plants gardens, and scours the world for treasures for you. I could do all that and more. Why won't you look at me? You are a nobleman of high station, elegant and dashing, the dream of every young maiden in the capital. Yet, my heart belongs to Shen Yan alone. A few short words were enough to break Shen Yan's focus in the midst of the fight, with the upper hand now his. The Prince of Duan's heir showed no mercy, blow after punishing blow landed, each one finding its mark, until with a final, desperate shove, he sent Xin Yan crashing to the ground, off balance and unable to dodge. Xin Yan's head struck a hard, unyielding stone with a sickening crack. The lost memories came flooding back with a surge of searing pain. Xin Yan, I may have a terrible temper, but my one saving grace is my devotion to you. If you truly choose to be with me, I won't let you leave me even if it costs me my life. Under the full moon, empty bottles lay scattered across the ground, and the girl's eyes sparkled as she gazed at him. Xin Yan flusteredly averted his gaze, torn between the desire to look and the fear of doing so. A chaotic torrent of memories flooded his mind, the sharp pain forcing him to curl into a ball for relief. Gradually, he lost consciousness, and those jumbled memories finally fell into order, unfurling in his mind like a scroll, from tears to laughter, and back again. Those glistening, profoundly affectionate eyes belong to one person alone, Xia Mingi, my Mingi. 7. The borderlands are swept by harsh winds and sand, yet my skirts remain spotless day after day. My sworn brother, Li Weizhen, cared for me meticulously. He sought out doctors for my ailments, bought me the most exquisite dresses, and would even travel 1,000 miles to find the Jiangnan snacks I merely mentioned in passing. My father was a military officer, and my mother spent years accompanying him on garrison duty at the frontier. Li Weizhen was an orphan of the battlefield whom they adopted, and we grew up together in the capital. He was by my side for every important moment of my upbringing. My reliance on him surpassed that of anyone else in the world. Even Xin Yan couldn't compare. I lay on the bed, gazing with a worried expression at the half-open window lattice. Dear brother, I'm truly almost fully recovered. Please, just let me go out and have a look. Li Weizhen sighed and raised his hand to examine my bones. It had been 3 months. The bones broken in the fall from the cliff had long since healed, and there wasn't the slightest bit of pain during normal movement, yet. Li Weizhen still treated me like a fragile porcelain doll. I held out my arm. Go on, give it a squeeze. If you're sure the bone's healed, you have to take me to the market. He gave it a few gentle squeezes, then ruffled my hair. Go get changed. Your big brother is going to show you the sights of the frontier. I cheered and hurried to get ready. He went to the stable, fetched a horse, and carefully helped me up into the saddle. Then we set off at a leisurely pace. Heading out of the city gates, the sandstorm was fierce, yet it held a unique and striking beauty. Li Wei, truly afraid the sand would get in my eyes, carefully wrapped me tight in his cloak and then gently helped me put on my bamboo hat. Watching his considerate movements, I instinctively praised him. You're so thoughtful, brother. Even Xin Yan isn't as good as you. His movements halted, then, he lifted the brim of my hat. His tone solemn. Shaoyi, I am 100 times better than Xin Yan. This time, I was the one left speechless. I was in a daze the whole time. That sentence kept echoing in my mind. What does that mean? He's 100 times better than Xin Yan, but he's my brother. After dismounting, I trudged along with my head down. I had no idea where I'd wandered, when a warm hand came to rest against my forehead. Li Weizhen sighed helplessly. Shaoyi, we're going to crash. I looked up and met his gaze. The raw, overwhelming emotion in his eyes was nearly enough to drown me. Just as my heart was pounding wildly, a sudden wave of suffocation washed over me. That's the insidious nature of a slow-acting poison. It's slowly wearing down my body, giving me occasional warning signs. Li Weizhen's face turned pale as he kept pressing on my chest. He only let out a sigh of relief when my flushed face finally returned to normal. Seeing how worried he looked, I suddenly pouted and said, "It's all your fault for bringing me out, brother." The sandstorm was so bad it got stuck in my throat. Not a trace of a smile touched his face as his trembling hands adjusted my bamboo hat. Then from now on, I'll hide you away, big brother, he said. You'll never have to face the wind and sand again. I was speechless. After a long silence, I finally spoke again, my voice muffled. The poison in my body could take my life at any moment. Counting on my fingers from now until the time of my death in my past life, I said, at the very most. I have 13 years left, brother. I can't grow old with anyone. I can't bear the thought of becoming a burden to him. Yet, Li Weizhen smiled, and the emotion in his eyes as he looked at me suddenly welled up. Shaoyi, I've watched you grow from a little girl into the woman you are now. Being your brother was more than enough for me. I want nothing more than to see you find your own happiness. He paused, his fingers pressing once more against the place where my bone was broken. His voice dropping low, but seeing you again, you were like a shattered porcelain doll. That's when I realized I could never entrust you to anyone else. I will help you recover, find the best doctors for you. You will never be a burden to me, so please, don't be afraid. He gently brushed his fingers across my cheek, his tone almost pleading, give me a chance. 8. Shen Yan hit his head and remained unconscious for 3 days and 3 nights. The Prince of Duan arrived at the residence to offer his apologies, accompanied by his heir and a renowned physician. The physician examined Shen Yan's condition and shook his head gently. The injury itself is not serious, he said. It is the young master himself who is unwilling to wake up. With dark expressions, Mr. and Mrs. Shen turned to Jiang Yu, who was standing to the side, and unleashed their fury. He was perfectly fine staying at home. It's all your fault. Putting ideas in his head about going to some temple, you hid my son for 3 years and drove Mingyi away. If it weren't for you, how could he have ended up like this? If I had known better, I never should have listened to Mingyi. I should have forced Ian to regain his memories. The elderly couple seemed to age a decade in an instant, slumping down and wiping their tears. Mingyi is such a foolish child. All this talk of letting go and sacrifice. Things were so wonderful when she and Ian were together, unnoticed by anyone. Tears welled up in Shen Yan's eyes as he lay in bed. The memory resurfaced in his mind once more. The girl stood with her hands behind her back, her eyes sparkling. Yan, guess what gift I prepared for you? Shen Yan knew it was a white jade hair crown, but just as he reached out, the crown slipped from control, fell to the ground, and shattered into pieces. The scene shifts. The girl, who was once beaming with joy, now looks haggard. She offers him a fragile smile and says, Shen Yan, goodbye forever. Xiamingyi. Shen Yan's roar shatters the silence. He jolts awake, his eyes darting around the room. Before his vision clears, a figure throws itself into his arms, sobbing. Yan, you're finally awake. Do you have any idea how scared you made me? You were too rash. It was just a few taunts from the Crown Prince of Duan. You shouldn't have fought him on my account. As Shen Yan listened to the woman sobbing in his arms, his wildly pounding heart suddenly grew still. He pushed Jiang Yu away. Where is Xiamingyi? 4. Jiang Yu was taken aback, her face instantly darkening. Why are you bringing her up? You keep thinking about her, but she doesn't spare a thought for you. The whole capital knows you were in a coma, yet she couldn't even be bothered to visit. How could someone like that ever be worthy of being called your sister? The word sister pierced Shen Yan's heart like a dagger. He gritted his teeth and growled, what sister? She's no sister of mine. He threw off the covers, pulled on his shoes, and bolted out of the room. He knew Xiamingyi must be furious. She had searched for him for 3 years, only to find he had fallen for someone else. Of course she was angry. He needed to go and make it up to her. But before he could even step out of the room, Jiang Yu rushed forward and clung to him desperately, holding back her tears. She choked out between sobs. Yan, you remember now, don't you? The warmth in Shen Yan's gaze when he looked at her was gone. But how could it be? He had loved her so deeply once. How could he just fall for Xiamingyi again the moment his memories returned? She couldn't accept it. Couldn't believe that Shen Yan had never truly loved her. Jiang Yu didn't let go, desperately pleading, it's my fault. I'm the one who got her locked in the woodshed. I'm the one who caused her to be kidnapped. It's all my fault. Go back to bed. When the sun rises tomorrow, I'll go and apologize to her. Shen Yan had lost his memory, but he wasn't a fool. He had blindly trusted Jiang Yu when he was amnesiac, but he couldn't do that anymore. His face darkened as he pulled Jiang Yu's arm away. His voice icy cold. Jiang Yu, you know perfectly well what you've done. You smashed the jade pendant because it was Mingyi's favorite style, and the kidnapping was just an accident and a scheme you orchestrated yourself. My poor Mingyi, to think she would give her life to save you. His face was cold as he let out a self-mocking laugh. I saved your life on the frontier, and this is how you repay me, knowing full well everyone was hunting for me. You still hid me for 3 years. You know perfectly well what your intentions are. Jiang Yu's face gradually paled, unable to refute him. She could only change the subject with a desperate, ragged cry. But you married me. What am I supposed to be now? While you go running back to Xiamingyi. Shen Yan's departing steps faltered for a moment. He dug his nails fiercely into his palm, tormenting himself with the question. It was true. He had still married Jiang Yu. He was the one who had hurt Xiamingyi, in her eyes. What did he even amount to? He was the one who utterly and completely betrayed their love. All the solemn vows he once made now turned into sharp blades, piercing straight through his heart. He couldn't bear to think how heartbroken that poor, foolish girl must be. 9. Shen Yan went to see his parents, begging them to tell him Xiamingyi's whereabouts. Mrs. Shen clutched a handkerchief, dabbing at her tears, while Mr. Shen fumed at his son's lack of resolve. You worthless son. Where was all this concern before? When you lost your memory, you were desperate to marry Jiang Yu. She bore her own heartache and let you go, all because she didn't want to be a burden to you. A burden. Shen Yan's head snapped up. what burden, how could she ever be a burden to me, Mrs. Shin wept uncontrollably, her voice choked with sobs. She's been afflicted with a slow-acting poison since she was in the womb, and it's nearly impossible to cure. She even said she was glad you lost your memory and fell for someone else. She said it was the only way she could leave this world without any regrets or guilt holding her back. Shin Yan froze on the spot, as if struck by a thunderbolt. Poisoned, leaving. 5. He never imagined those two words could ever be connected to the girl he loved. A suffocating weight engulfed him, his heart seemed to stop, leaving only a searing, unforgettable agony that made living unbearable and dying impossible. Yet they had promised to be together forever, to never part. He was desperate to find proof that Xiaomingyi had not left. He went to the lakeside cottage, only to find the hall filled with lotus blossoms. He climbed to the attic, but it was crammed with clutter. The blooming roses had vanished without a trace, leaving only winding green vines covering the wall. A mouthful of hot blood sprayed out, and Shin Yan instantly lost consciousness. 10. I never thought I'd see Shin Yan again. He arrived, travel-worn and weary, and knocked on the general's manor gate. The moment he saw me, tears welled up in his eyes. I was bewildered. What's wrong? Did you have a fight with Jiang Yu? Shin Yan's face was contorted in agony, his voice trembling as he spoke. Mingyi, I came to find you. I've missed you so much. That long-lost tone of his made me realize instantly, he had regained his memories. But why would he come looking for me? Logically, he should be relieved that I'm gone. Sparing him the torment of having to choose between us, I took a sip of tea and smiled faintly. Shin Yan, you're a married man now. You shouldn't say such things. Even with your memories back, you ought to treat Jiang Yu properly. The anguish in his eyes was almost palpable. Don't say that, Mingyi. Hit me, curse me, do whatever you need to vent your anger. I'll do anything. I've already given Jiang Yu the divorce papers. Won't you come home with me? I stared in stunned disbelief. Utterly speechless, how could this happen? Shouldn't he be over the moon, starting a blissful life with Jiang Yu right now? What on earth is this all about? He rushed over, trying to pull me into a tight embrace, but in a flash of silver light, the edge of a sharp sword was pressed against his neck. Li Weizhen gnashed her teeth, her hatred laid bare. Shin Yan, you actually have the gall to come to my residence. Do you have a death wish? I was startled. We're both frontier generals. We can't turn on each other. I quickly clung to Li Weizhen's arm, my voice soft and pleading. Brother, I'm hungry, let's go eat. I pulled him away, but not before turning back to remind Shin Yan, we won't be keeping you for dinner. You should head home. Take good care of Jiang Yu. I wish you both the best. I genuinely wish them well. In my past life, when Shin Yan learned I was poisoned and didn't have long to live, he cared for me with his whole heart and soul, though it wasn't love. It was full of sincerity, so, after being reborn, I spared no effort to fulfill his wishes, simply to repay that genuine kindness from our past life. Only after repaying that debt did I think of living my own life freely and happily. I wish him happiness, and I also hope he will no longer disturb my own. I agreed to be with Li Weizhen. After the wedding ceremony, we set out on our journey to seek medical treatment. Strangely enough, we sought out the reclusive master physician who, in a past life, had declared my condition incurable. This time, however, he looked at me, his eyes filled with joy. There's hope, there's hope. It's a good thing you came now. A few years later, and even the best medicine in the world wouldn't have been able to save you. I felt a surge of relief mixed with doubt. Many physicians have said this poison is difficult to cure, and the difficulty lies in the ingredients. Do you have them here? The miracle-working doctor paused, casting a glance toward the thatched hut's backyard. In this whole world, only this old man possesses those ingredients. Li Weizhen pulled me tightly into his embrace and, heedless of any onlookers, planted several kisses on my face. Xiaoyi, we could grow old together. The man bleeding out in the backyard froze, his eyes dimming, yet he knew, all of this was a mess of his own making. As the lifeblood from his heart continued to flow, those painful memories came rushing back once more. In their past life, Xiaomingyi insisted on restoring his memories. He returned to the Shin family and married her on the date specified in the marriage contract. On the very day of their wedding, news arrived that Jiang Yu had jumped off a cliff to her death. From that moment on, he began to harbor a deep resentment towards Xiaomingyi. For 10 years, he refused to set foot in her courtyard, unwilling to even glance in her direction. It wasn't until Xiaomingyi's first poison flare-up, when she nearly died right before his eyes, Xiaomingyi confronted him, demanding to know why his love could be given and withdrawn so easily. Before he could answer, Xiaomingyi fainted. The imperial physician said she didn't have long to live. Shin Yan kept vigil by her sickbed, waiting until she regained consciousness to answer her question. I have always loved you. The past few years were my fault. I will take you to find a doctor. There must be a miracle healer who can cure you. They seemed to have returned to the sweetness of their youth, but only Shen Yan knew the truth. With every word he spoke, a fresh wave of agony washed over him, because at that moment, his mind was completely consumed by the despair Jiang Yu had felt when she took her own life. This continued until they finally reached the doorstep of the reclusive miracle physician. The divine physician was not only skilled in medicine, but also shrouded in mystery. He said Xia Mingyi could be saved, yet there was no cure to be found. Shen Yan pressed him on what medicine was needed. The divine physician smiled and pointed at his own heart, the heart's blood of a reincarnated soul. Your heart's blood. He froze for a moment, then let out a bitter laugh. Do we truly have a next life? If I am granted one, I wish to live a complete and fulfilling life with the one I truly love. The divine physician merely smiled without a word. Shen Yan stayed by Xia Mingyi's side until her final moments, only confessing his true feelings when she could no longer hold on and was about to leave this world. Mingyi, I have fulfilled my duty as a husband to you. If I could start over, I beg you not to exhaust yourself seeking a cure for me. I wish to erase all memories and love her properly. Xia Mingyi's hand fell from his embrace. In the deathly still air, he heard Xia Mingyi's voice once more. Forget it, since he's lost his memory, just let it be. When he opened his eyes again, the woman before him was a stranger. He only knew that she had returned him to the side of his beloved. Jiang Yu, foolish child. The old master physician shook him awake, took the bowl of blood from his hands, and went to prepare the medicine. He was torn in two by the agony in his heart and the torment of his flesh, yet he remained utterly unaware of it, his gaze fixed intently on the physician's movements. He asked softly, if one can be reborn once, can it happen a second time? If he could, he would end his life this very instant. If given another chance, he would love Xia Mingyi with all his heart. The miracle-working doctor didn't even turn his head, letting out a derisive snort. In a past life, one yearns for the present. In this life, one longs for the past. Kid, she's doing well now. She won't go through it all again with you. Peering through the crack in the door, Shen Yan watched the two figures nestled together, watching the sunset. A pang of sorrow tightened his throat, and his eyes grew hot and blurred with tears. What he had longed for in his past life was granted to him by Xia Mingyi in this one. What he yearned for in this life was made possible by Xia Mingyi from the life before. The beginning and end of our fate was of my own making, a love misplaced across 2 lifetimes. Never mind, as long as she is healthy and happy, it's enough for him to watch over her from the shadows for a lifetime. The end. Story 2. When the nanny's daughter brought a man back, the bullet comments in midair were filled with excitement. The male and female leads are both reborn. The sweet love is starting. The female supporting character is so shameless. If it weren't for the male lead's bone cancer that required surgery fees, how could the male lead marry her out of gratitude just for the female supporting character's little money? That's right, it was a disease that could be cured by one surgery. But in the previous life, the female lead had to be the male lead's canary for 8 years. She was so wronged. Fortunately, after the female supporting character's family went bankrupt, the male lead finally realized that the only person he loved was the female lead, and he immediately divorced and grandly married the female lead. The male lead truly lives up to his role. Born into a poor family, he swallowed up the female supporting character's family property by himself and became the richest man in one fell swoop. I'm so satisfied with this plot. I took a look at Jiao Jiao, who was no longer carefully flattering, and a cold and proud man. I smiled. One couldn't afford to go to school, and the other couldn't afford to see a doctor. These two, the reborn male and female leads, really came at a bad time. Jiao Jiao held her head high arrogantly, and directly sat on the sofa with the man on her arm. She glanced at me sideways, the corners of her mouth curving up. Su Yang, this is Xiao He. He's my boy friend. Don't be a mistress even though you know he has a girlfriend. She looked at me confidently, as if she was certain that I would fall in love with the man beside her. At this moment, the bullet comments in front of me flashed by rapidly, all of them praises, so satisfying. They confessed their love to each other and got together right after being reborn, and they won't miss each other for 8 years because of the interference of the female supporting character. In the previous life, the female supporting character took a fancy to the male lead's face. While the male lead needed money for treatment, she forced the male lead to promise to marry her with money, making the female lead be a canary outside for 8 years. It's so heart-wrenching. Fortunately, for the sake of the female lead, after taking over the female supporting character's family company, The male lead schemed to make the female supporting character's parents die in a car accident and sent the female supporting character to a mental hospital. In the plot, the grand wedding of the male lead and the female lead was so magnificent that even the princess of the neighboring royal family envied it. This is simply the best example of a two-way relationship. It's so sweet that it's killing me. I frowned and looked at the two people snuggling together in front of me. The man straightened his back, looked at me calmly, exuding a powerful aura around him. It was out of place with his pale cheeks and the cheap shirt. And Jiao was in a posture of being sure of victory, with a half-smile on her face. The bullet comments kept popping up. I finally understood. I was the vicious female supporting character they were talking about. In the plot, Xiaohe said he didn't have a girlfriend, and I directly took out 1 million yuan and said I could help him with his medical treatment, but the condition was that he would be with me. Although Xiaohe agreed, he had always had a beloved white moonlight in his heart. Jiao, the daughter of a nanny and a husband who married into her family, just like that, the two of them had an affair right under my nose for 8 years. They obtained status, money, and fame because of me. After my parents passed away, they joined forces to short me and casually forged a report saying that I had a mental illness. They sent me to a mental hospital. But the two of them took my family's property and publicly declared their love, unfortunately, when they went on a honeymoon abroad. The plane they were on had an accident. They both died, but were reborn at the same time. The first thing they did after being reborn was to come and declare their sovereignty to me, the vicious female supporting character. I sneered sarcastically. Xiaohe, who didn't have money to treat his bone cancer, and Jiao, who relied on my family to make a living. These two really came back to life at a bad time. I called the butler and said calmly, "Oh, Uncle Gu, throw them out." Jiao froze. And a trace of anger flashed across her face. "Su Yang, why are you being like this? My boyfriend hasn't been feeling well recently, and the rent of our place has also expired. As his girlfriend, of course I have to take care of him. If you drive him away, what will I do?" I raised my eyes indifferently and chuckled. "I understand, I get it. So, I'm driving both of you out. Jiao, this is my home. Since you have a boyfriend now, you have someone to rely on. And you don't need to mooch off me anymore." Jiao was completely stunned. She looked at Xiaohe in a panic. The bullet comments were instantly filled with question marks. What's wrong with the female supporting character? Shouldn't she fall in love at first sight with the male lead and treat the male lead and the female lead to delicious food and good accommodation? Why isn't she following the plot? The male and female leads don't have any money on them now. And if they are driven away, they won't have a place to live. Didn't the female supporting character fall in love at first sight with the male lead? Is she playing hard to get and deliberately trying to attract the male lead's attention? Just wait, she will soon cry and beg the male lead not to leave. Xiaohe coldly raised his head, and his phoenix eyes were cold and sharp. "Su Yang, I know you deliberately want to attract my attention, so you're deliberately driving me and Jiao away, but in this life, I won't yield to your filthy money. If you stay put and don't make me angry, I'll leave you a place in this house. By the way, I'm used to sleeping in the master bedroom. You clean out your things yourself." I couldn't help rolling my eyes. The bullet comments were so self-righteous, and this male lead was no better. Did they forget to bring their brains back after being reborn? Why should he leave me a place in my own house? My face turned cold, and with a wave of my hand, the bodyguards drove Jiao and Xiaohe out. The two of them were furious, and the harsh words they shouted were blocked outside by the door. I casually stopped the secondary card I gave to Jiao. My best friend Lu. She was extremely excited when she heard about it. "What happened? How could you finally see through Jiao's ugly true colors?" Lu. She had always disliked Jiao, but I was nostalgic, and we had the bond of growing up together. So I didn't care about giving her a secondary card and letting her spend as she pleased. For girls, it's normal to have vanity and like beautiful things, but if she didn't know her place and threatened my interests, then she couldn't blame me for turning against her and driving her away. As for whether she had a place to live and how she would survive, that was not within the scope of my consideration. I smiled and took Lucy's arm, changing the subject. "Manager Lin just told me the other day that Yang Su has some new jewelry and clothes in stock. Let's go take a look. If we like anything, we'll buy it, and put it on my account." Lucy's eyes curved with a smile. "Miss Su is so generous. By the way, my brother is coming back from abroad today. I'll ask him to come pick us up later." I nodded, and then saw the bullet comments start cheering. "There's a welcome banquet at the male supporting character's house tonight. As long as the male and female leads make a connection with the male supporting character, they can return to the glory of their previous life." God, the male lead took the female lead out for shopping. His domineering president aura is so attractive to me. Although the well-known domestic clothing studio Yang Su is under the name of the female supporting character, it will sooner or later fall into the hands of the male lead. It's just borrowing 2 sets of dresses in advance. The female supporting character surely won't care about such a small thing, right? Borrowing dresses from my studio. I looked up in surprise and saw Jiao Jiao walking into the store with Xiaohe on her arm downstairs. Xiaohe ordered the staff without even raising his head, "Bring the latest season's dresses here. Also, take Miss Jiao Jiao to get a styling done." Jiao Jiao directly walked upstairs, but was stopped by the sharp-eyed manager Lin. "Sorry, there are distinguished guests upstairs. Please wait in the hall for a while, you two." Jiao Jiao looked unhappy. "Which distinguished guests? Can they be more important than me? Don't you recognize who I am?" Manager Lin was so anxious that he was sweating profusely and quickly ran up to ask for my opinion. This store was under my name. There were some high-end custom-made dresses and jewelry downstairs. Upstairs was my private area for styling. I had brought Jiao Jiao here a few times before, and when I was in a good mood. I also gave her a lot of jewelry, but now that she had been driven out of my house, why couldn't she recognize her own situation? I said calmly, "Since they're here to buy things, they're guests, you should serve them as you normally would, charge them at the original price, if they can't pay. Then call the police." Manager Lin nodded, went downstairs, found an excuse, and took Jiao Jiao to the VIP room on the first floor. Lu Shi and I weren't idle either. While watching the 2 monkeys downstairs and pointing at them, we also selected the new products of the season. As soon as we finished selecting and went downstairs, we saw the staff stopping the 2 who were about to leave. "Sorry, Miss He. The total consumption today is 58,020 yuan. How would you like to pay?" Jiao Jiao's shocked voice was a bit shrill. "Make me pay? Didn't you recognize who I am? When I come to your store on weekdays, I just charge it to my account directly." "Sorry, Miss He, we can't do that anymore in the store now. Please make the payment." Jiao Jiao took out her black card unhappily, but was told the bad news that it had been frozen and couldn't be used. She then panicked. "How could this be? This card belongs to Su Yang." She raised her head and happened to meet my eyes. The bullet comments also started scolding me at the same time. The female supporting character is so disgusting. She even cares about just over 50,000 yuan with the female lead. In the previous life, the female supporting character used her filthy money to stop the male and female leads from falling in love. Now she still can't change her ways. She just wants the male lead to yield to her. Why doesn't the female supporting character understand that love is about giving, not taking? How could the male lead take a fancy to someone like the female supporting character who calculates interests like this? Obviously, the male lead Xiaohe also thought of me this way. He glanced at me with disgust, as if he was speaking to Jiao Jiao, but actually speaking to me. "It's okay, Jiao Jiao. Some people just like to act up. She thinks that by freezing the card, she can force me to bow my head and marry her. But she doesn't know that the more she acts up, the fewer men will like her. But tonight's banquet is very important. Jiao Jiao, you'd better pawn this necklace first." Xiaohe stroked Jiao Jiao's cheek affectionately and promised, "I know you love this necklace very much. Don't worry, after tonight, I'll make you be able to spend money freely again. Then we'll redeem this necklace." I was extremely speechless. They were calculating the auction of the necklace right in front of me. The owner of the necklace. He was really asking for trouble. Lu Shi didn't hesitate at all. She stepped forward and tore the necklace off Jiao Jiao. "Can you have some shame? This necklace belongs to Su Yang. Get it back to her quickly." Jiao Jiao glared at me resentfully after feeling the pain. "Su Yang, it's bad enough that you're making me homeless now. Why are you even snatching back the necklace you gave me? What you gave me is mine. What I do with it is my business. You're meddling in other people's business, aren't you?" I kindly reminded her. "Jiao Jiao. This necklace was specially designed for me by a top designer. It's unique, and it also has my name's initials on it. Back then, you said it was nice and begged me to lend it to you for a few days, and I agreed, but I didn't promise to give it to you, did I? If you refuse to return it, then I have to call the police." Jiao Jiao's face turned extremely ugly, but she didn't have the nerve to discuss the ownership of the necklace with me. I also directly took back all the remaining jewelry on her body. She became penniless again. Manager Lin was very observant and said, "You two, can you make the payment now? If you can't pay, please return the things to us." Jiao Jiao anxiously tugged at Xiaohe's sleeve. "He, do you still have money on you? Hurry up and pay. Aren't you always generous in spending?" Jiao Jiao seemed to think that all that generosity was with my money. Her questioning voice stopped abruptly. She angrily glared at me, who was watching the scene with amusement. It's all Su Yang's fault. She even cares about some used jewelry. She even snatched back the necklace that I've been wearing for 3 months. Xiaohe, don't just stand there. Think of a way quickly. We can't return these things. I can't afford to lose this vase. I didn't say anything. Lu Shi smiled beside me and shouted, if you can't afford to lose this vase, then buy them all. Buying them is also giving money to Yang Yang. How great. It serves 2 purposes. The 2 of them had an ugly expression for a long time. Finally, Xiaohe gritted his teeth and put down the clothes, and pulled Jiao Jiao to leave. Don't bully the young man because he's poor. Just you wait. As soon as I meet young Master Lu, I'll have money immediately. Before he could finish his words, the young Master Lu he mentioned, Lu Shi's biological brother Lu Sun, walked in. Meet me, Yang Yang, what's going on? Xiaohe's face showed excitement when he saw Lu Sun, and he and Jiao Jiao immediately surrounded Lu Sun. Mr. Lu, hello, my surname is Xiaohe, this is my girlfriend, Jiao Jiao. I wonder if Mr. Lu has time. I have a cooperation I want to discuss with you. The bullet comments also became excited because of Xiaohe's actions. The male lead is so great. He takes the initiative and seizes the business opportunity, turning the tables and becoming the master. He deserves to be the richest man. The male supporting character returned to the country at this time in the previous life and won the development project in the southern part of the city, and his net worth increased by several hundred million. Although the male lead got to know the male supporting character through the female supporting character in the previous life, now that the male lead has the memories of the previous life, it's not easy for him to accumulate connections again and reach the peak again. I just smiled and ignored it. These bullet comments were too naive. Could he accumulate connections again just because he had the memories of the previous life? Those connections of his, weren't they all mine? And Lu Sun's reaction didn't disappoint me either. He sized up Xiaohe suspiciously and didn't even extend his hand. He directly ignored them and walked up to us. Xiaoshi, Yang Yang, have you finished shopping? Did I come a bit early? Lu Sun's ignoring made Xiaohe and the other person feel so embarrassed that they didn't know what to do. Jiao Jiao awkwardly covered her chest and didn't dare to look up. Xiaohe looked at us with a complicated expression. They obviously hadn't yet broken away from the luxurious daily life of their previous life. They still thought they were the high and mighty wealthy nobles, but everything they once had was also because of me. They looked down on my family's money. Yet they enjoyed the material comforts brought by me. They were being hypocritical. I smiled and directly asked the manager to wrap up 7 or 8 dresses that were suitable for me and Lu Shi. Lu Sun naturally took them. I went to pick a tie and handed it to Lu Sun. Brother Lu Sun came to pick us up as soon as he returned to the country. This is a thank you gift. Lu Sun smiled and immediately took off his tie and put on the new one. Yang Yang has a good taste. I like it very much. Thank you. I smiled and glanced at the 2 people beside me with gloomy expressions. I directly led the others to leave. Stop. I turned around and looked at Xiaohe, whose face was livid. The female supporting character is so scheming. She deliberately gave a gift to another man in front of the male lead. This method of goading is really insidious. The male lead can't get Lu Sun's project, so he's starting late. What should he do? No, could it be that the male lead will yield to the female supporting character again and make the female lead suffer for another 8 years? Does the female supporting character even deserve it? I was speechless inwardly and then saw that Xiaohe seemed to have suffered a great humiliation. He walked up to me with a look of unwillingness on his face, gave me a fierce glare, and then turned his head away, closing his eyes and saying, Su Yang, you're really capable this time. I admit that what you did has indeed caught my attention. All you want is for me to be your boyfriend. If you let me participate in Lu Sun's new project, I can consider having a meal with you. Before I could react, Lu Sun clicked his tongue in surprise. Yang Yang, this toad wants to have a meal with you and even demands to participate in my new project first. Where did you meet this brainless person? Lu Sun's sarcastic words directly stunned Xiaohe. I held back my laughter and gave a brief explanation. He's the boyfriend of my nanny's daughter. I'm not familiar with him. I also own the luxury store next door. Do you want to go shopping together? Xiaohe watched helplessly as I went on a shopping spree. It seemed that the humility and flattery from the past 8 years in his previous life suddenly became clear, reminding him of his current embarrassment. His face turned paler and paler. Su Yang, help me. Xiaohe weakly uttered these words, and the next second, he felt dizzy and fell to the ground. But when he woke up in the hospital ward, Xiaohe only saw Jiao Jiao complaining non-stop. Why couldn't you faint at any other time? You had to faint at that moment. You have no idea. Those store clerks were staring at me like I was a fraudster, afraid that I would try to extort them. How many years has it been since I Jiao, have suffered such contempt, Xiaohe. You promised me that you would never let me suffer even the slightest grievance in this lifetime. Xiaohe looked down at the needle mark on his hand, feeling irritable and distracted. The beautiful wish he had envisioned when he was reborn, to return all the humiliation he had endured for 8 years to Su Yang, had only lasted for a few short hours, and then it completely fell apart. For some reason, he suddenly remembered the time when he first met Su Yang. He had fainted once as well. It was Su Yang who personally sent him to the hospital and took care of him closely. The young lady who had never done any housework before peeled an apple with her own hands for the first time. It was all uneven and looked extremely comical. Xiaohe felt a sense of loss, and finally, he could only close his eyes and fall into a deep sleep. At least he didn't have to sleep on the streets that night. After seeing all the bullet comments feeling sorry for the male lead and showing concern for the female lead, I received a call from Manager Lin. Then I understood the situation. I see. Remember to check the surveillance cameras to see if any valuable items were taken away. I hung up the phone and took the wine from Lu Sun's hand. Brother Lu Sun, are you back in the country for work this time? Yes. There's a project in the southern part of the city that I need to follow up on. I nodded and originally wanted to remind Lu Sun to be wary of Xiaohe, but then I thought, Lu Sun wasn't a fool. He was 6 years older than me and had already taken over his family's company. He had seen plenty of strange people. How could he be intimidated by someone as self-righteous and arrogant as Xiaohe? Lu Sun took a sip of his wine and continued, once this project is done, I don't plan to leave either. From now on, I should be staying in the country. The bullet comments were even more surprised than I was. This plot doesn't seem right. Didn't the male supporting character go abroad after finishing the project in the southern part of the city in the previous life? Why has he decided to stay now? Will his staying become an obstacle for the male lead? I remember that the male supporting character liked the female supporting character, in the previous life. When he returned to the country and learned that the female supporting character was already with the male lead, he left without looking back. Could it be that because the male lead isn't with the female supporting character, the plot has changed? No, if the male supporting character gets together with the female supporting character, what will happen to the male and female leads? The male lead hasn't become the richest man yet. I found it a bit ridiculous. Do I have to love Xiaohe, the male lead, and be a stepping stone on his path to success? I'm worth 1 billion yuan after all. What kind of high-quality partner can't I find? As for Lu Sun, I was skeptical about what the bullet comments said. After all, Lu Sun was well known in the industry for being indifferent to women. Just because he had a good relationship with me because of Lu Shi, he couldn't be considered to like me, right? After the banquet ended, I suddenly became very interested and posted a status on my social media. It was a 9-grid post, all showing the luxurious scenes of the banquet. Not long after, I saw that Jiao also posted a status on her social media. In the photo, she was holding Xiaohe's hand tightly. As long as we're together, any difficulties and hardships can be easily overcome. The bullet comments were filled with laughter, mocking me for failing in my scheming. The self-righteous female supporting character thought that by stopping the male and female leads from attending the banquet, she could break them up. She's just a clown. I raised my eyebrows. Really, I wonder how much longer Xiaohe's bone cancer can last, but I didn't expect that half an hour later, I received a call from my mother. Su Yang, you're becoming more and more unreasonable. Jiao just wanted to introduce a new friend to you. How could you ask someone to throw them out? I frowned and sensed something was wrong. Under my questioning, I finally found out. It turned out that Aunt Jiang, Jiao's mother, called my mother every day on the pretext of reporting my recent situation. Every day, she had been playing tricks. She had put all the blame on me. No wonder I always felt that my parents were becoming more and more disappointed in me. While they always praised Jiao for being sensible, Jiao had even hypocritically comforted me, saying that I was just being too sensitive and that I was a bit estranged from my parents because I hadn't seen them for a long time. I had a conversation with my parents for over an hour, refuting every piece of evidence that Jiao and her mother had used to slander me with valid reasons and evidence. I even told them about the incident where she brought a strange man home and tried to live in my house, afraid that they wouldn't believe me. I directly retrieved the surveillance footage and sent it to them. They finally understood and said that they would leave everything to me to handle, and they would take the responsibility if anything happened. My heart felt warm, and I directly asked someone to kick open Aunt Zhang's door. When Jiao brought Xiaohe to my house that day, Aunt Zhang wasn't at home, so I had forgotten to deal with her. Since I was going to drive people away, I naturally had to do it thoroughly. Aunt Jiang looked a bit dazed and asked me with a look of displeasure, "Miss Su, didn't you have enough to eat at the banquet? It's not appropriate for you to ask me to make you a midnight snack so late, is it? I'm your family's nanny, not your family's slave. I also have the right to personal freedom. I sneered coldly and found the surveillance video that I had saved on my phone for a long time. Sure, I'll give you back your personal freedom. Our family's place can't accommodate a big shot like you. You're fired. Get out of here right now. When Aunt Jiang heard this, her calm face finally showed panic, and she kept asking me for the reason. I impatiently shoved some old videos in her face. Just because you stole quite a few antiques from the warehouse before, I have the right to fire you. Do you understand? When I found out about this before, I originally wanted to tell my parents. But Aunt Jiang had indeed worked in my family for many years, and those antiques weren't particularly valuable. I gently reminded her at that time, and later she secretly returned them on her own, so I didn't make a fuss about it. But obviously, being too lenient would only make these small-minded people take advantage. Aunt Jiang was driven out of the house by me that night. Early the next morning, Jiao Jiao came to question me, but she came at the wrong time. I was busy asking someone to take out the bags and jewelry that I had lent to Jiao Jiao before and take inventory of them. Then I noticed something was wrong. Several limited edition Hermes bags had been replaced with counterfeits, and some diamond jewelry had also been replaced with cubic zirconia. I squinted my eyes and looked at Jiao Jiao, who had been talking nonstop just now. She panicked and turned her head away, trying to run. She was directly stopped by my bodyguards. I suddenly remembered that Aunt Jiang had accidentally let slip something before. She said that she had bought a large flat in the city center for 6 million yuan and had already paid a down payment of 2 million yuan, but although Aunt Jiang and Jiao Jiao lived and ate in my house, their monthly salary was only 10,000 yuan, and they also had a gambling-addicted husband to support. Where could they have saved 2 million yuan? It was obvious what the money from replacing the bags had been used for. With a cold face, I made a call and summoned the appraisers. They checked everything and estimated the amount. The total is 58 million yuan. I'll round it up for you. It's 6 million. When will you pay it back? Jiao Jiao got angry instead. Su Yang, just because the man you love doesn't love you but only loves me, you're going to target me like this. Those things were originally mine. What I do with them is my business. Why do you ask me to pay back the money? The bullet comments also criticized me one after another. That's right. In the previous life, the female supporting character gave so many things to the female lead that there was hardly enough room in one bedroom, and she didn't ask for them back. Now, just because the male lead isn't with her, she's targeting the female lead. She's so two-faced. The female supporting character has a mentality of female competition. Isn't she afraid that when the male lead finds out about this, he'll deal with her severely? I chuckled and threw the bill in Jiao Jiao's face. All these were paid for with my card, and the ownership has never been yours. You have 1 month. If you can't pay it back, we'll see each other in court. I was too lazy to argue with Jiao Jiao and asked someone to throw her out. Then I asked my private lawyer to handle the matter fully. After dealing with Jiao Jiao, I still felt stuffy in my chest. Just then, Lucen invited me to have dinner and said that he wanted to cooperate with me to develop the project in the southern part of the city. Of course, I wouldn't refuse the money that came to me. After we had been eating for a while, the bullet comments started feeling sorry for the male lead again. It's so difficult. Is the male lead really going to yield to the female supporting character? Sigh. But the male lead still has bone cancer now and doesn't have the money for the surgery. He originally had a chance to seek help from the male supporting character, but it was ruined by the female supporting character. I just want to see the sweet love between the male and female leads. Why do we have to torture our male and female leads? I frowned and then saw Xiaohe walking over. Xiaohe put his hands in his pockets and stood in front of me, looking down at me. There was nothing but hatred in his eyes. He glanced at me and then closed his eyes in disgust. Su Yang, I admit that you're very capable. I know you love me, so you deliberately disrupted the situation and targeted Jiao Jiao on purpose. Well, I'll give you a chance. What I said yesterday still stands. You pay for my medical expenses. When I'm cured, I can reluctantly break up with Jiao Jiao and be your boyfriend for 3 years. Xiaohe paused for a moment. It seemed that he thought this was a very humiliating decision. And Healy emphasized his tone. Only 3 years, this is my bottom line. I laughed out loud and asked him in return, excuse me, when did I ever say that I liked you? Xiaohe smiled and said confidently, you don't have to say it, I already know. Su Yang, I know you very well. You fell in love with me at first sight and didn't hesitate to break up. Before he could finish his words, he was interrupted. Lucen pulled me behind him and looked at Xiaohe unhappily. Why are you again? Didn't anyone look for you when you ran out of the mental hospital? Xiaohe suppressed his smile, and his tone became extremely cold. Lu Sun, it's not your place to interfere in the matter between me and Su Yang. Who do you think you are? The bullet comments praised the male lead for being domineering and handsome, but I couldn't help but sigh. Xiaohe obviously still couldn't accept his current status and was still holding a grudge about Lu Sun ignoring him yesterday. But he still didn't understand the truth. He was now penniless and his life was in danger. He had no right to challenge me at all. Just because I'm Su Yang's suitor and because my family and the Su family are old friends, of course I have the right. With one sentence, the argument was over. But I underestimated Xiaohe's narcissism. He sneered, Su Yang, I know you're still brooding over the fact that I'm with Jiao Jiao, so you deliberately asked Lu Sun to provoke me. It doesn't matter. I don't mind. What I said just now still stands. As long as you, no need. I directly interrupted him and said disdainfully, you're penniless and blindly narcissistic. Even if I were blind, I wouldn't take a fancy to you. I don't know if my words, penniless, stimulated Xiaohe. For more than a month after that day, he didn't appear in front of me again. I was happy to be at leisure and focused on enjoying my vacation. But the bullet comments would occasionally pop up to report the recent situation of the male and female leads. Xiaohe had no money and no longer had me, the vicious female supporting character, as his backer. He could only rely on Jiao Jiao, the female lead, to support him. In theory, Jiao Jiao's biological mother could have saved some money over the years, but her husband was a gambler. And they couldn't save any money even if they had some. Jiao Jiao didn't even have any pocket money. She used to rely on the secondary card I gave her to live. Now, facing a debt of more than 2 million yuan, she was almost driven crazy. They had just bought a large flat but didn't have time to move in, so they had to sell it urgently to get the money. The three of them finally squeezed into a rented room with a monthly rent of 500 yuan and tried to find ways to work to make a living. Naturally, they didn't have the time to cause trouble for me. And the bullet comments, of course, put the blame on me. They blamed me for not being willing to spend money on their male and female leads. Every time I saw these words, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. When a businessman invests, they always expect some return, either emotional value or commercial value. But these two people wanted to live off others while acting arrogantly. Why should I waste my money on them? Just as the university was about to start, I guessed that Jiao Jiao probably didn't have the money to pay the tuition fees. As expected, there would be no more interaction with them in the future. After Lu Shi and I finished tidying up the dormitory and just went downstairs, we were bumped into by Jiao Jiao holding a phone. Before I could react, my face appeared in Jiao Jiao's live stream. Everyone, look, it's her. This is the bitch who has made my life miserable. I frowned and looked up at Jiao Jiao. In just 1 month, Jiao Jiao had changed a lot. Her arrogant attitude was completely gone, replaced by an unmaskable look of fatigue and aging. Even the cheap cosmetics couldn't hide her dark circles. Jiao Jiao was aggressive and held up the phone, angrily scolding me as the culprit. She said that I bullied her just because my family was rich. What does she have besides being richer than me? She wasn't as pretty as me since childhood. And she wasn't as good at pleasing people as me. Her parents both like me. And even the man she likes only loves me. She's jealous of me, so she used her connections, bribed the school, and forced me to drop out. Do you know how many opportunities for fun I gave up and how many cram schools I attended to get into this university? She, Su Yang, grew up with a silver spoon in her mouth, yet she even wants to deprive me of my only chance to get ahead. The bullet comments also fell for Jiao Jiao's act, passionately denouncing me as the evil capitalist. The gap between the rich and the poor is indeed the best weapon for public opinion. The other students around also stopped, engaged in heated discussions, and pointed at me. Just as I was about to refute, Lu Shi slapped Jiao Jiao across the face without hesitation before I could speak. Your act is so old-fashioned. Aren't you tired of it? You said our Su Yang didn't let you study. Show the evidence. We have evidence of you stealing and selling Su Yang's luxury goods, including the surveillance video of your mother stealing and selling antiques when she was a nanny in the Su family. Do you want us to show them all in your live stream? And your boyfriend, who is penniless and suffering from bone cancer, has the audacity to ask Su Yang to pay for his treatment. You keep calling her an evil capitalist. If you don't value the capitalist's filthy money, why do you keep living off others and begging for money? You've lived in Su Yang's house since you were a child, eating and using the Su family's money. You even wanted to sell her necklace for money to buy clothes. Why don't you tell these things in the live stream? The bullet comments in mid-air suddenly went blank, and everyone fell silent. But the bullet comments in the live stream kept scrolling. The other students around also kept sizing up Jiao, since she didn't refute. They naturally had their own conclusions. Tisk, tsk, tsk. I didn't expect such a big reversal, I said, just looking at that young lady's appearance. She doesn't need to be jealous of this girl, greedy and insatiable, always creating public opinion. She's really crazy about becoming famous. Xiaohe rushed over with a pale face, gasping for breath. He pulled Jiao aside. Jiao, stop making a scene, turn off the live stream now. He lowered his voice, but I still heard him say, "This is too embarrassing." This sentence irritated Jiao. "Don't I do all this for you? You've been eating and using my things all the time, and you're always in the hospital. What else can you give me besides empty promises?" The bullet comments suddenly reappeared, but they no longer blindly supported Jiao, the female lead. As before, what the female lead said is a bit too much. It really hurts the male lead's self-esteem. She clearly knows what the male lead cares about the most. I always feel that the female lead is very different from the previous life. The female lead in the previous life was very considerate and sensible. In the previous life, the female lead was the beneficiary and didn't need to give anything. Now she has become the one who has to give, so her mindset is naturally different. I smiled dismissively. Stepping into a life where every penny has to be carefully calculated at an early age, how could their relationship be as sweet as the bullet comments said? In the previous life, their 8-year love affair was based on the material foundation I provided. Now they are struggling to survive, so how can they have the mood for love and ambition? After watching enough of the farce, I urged Lucy to leave. Lu Sun just sent a message. "He's already at the school gate. He should be here by now. Let's go quickly." Lucy raised her eyebrows and teased me with a smile. "Oh, now you know my brother's schedule better than I do." His own sister. "Should I change my address for you soon?" I smiled, neither confirming nor denying. Lu Sun had already made his feelings clear and asked me to give him a chance. I didn't reject him completely and had started to get to know him. We had just walked a few steps when Xiaohe suddenly turned around and grabbed me. "Su Yang." He glared at me and closed his eyes resignedly. "I admit it, you won this time. My condition is getting worse. The cancer has started to spread. And the doctor said it can't be delayed any longer. As long as you're willing to pay for my surgery, I'll agree to whatever you ask." The loud engine sound of a sports car drowned out Xiaohe's words. Lu Sun got out of the Koenigsegg and quickly slapped Xiaohe's hand away. "Why are you here again, you crazy person? If you really can't find your way back, I can find someone to help you. But you can't take advantage of Yang Yang's good nature and keep harassing her, can you?" Xiaohe was instantly stunned, his eyes fixed on Lu Sun's car. His eyes were glazed, as if lost in memories. It seemed that he had remembered his luxurious past again. I smiled and deliberately asked Lu Sun, "Why did you drive this car today? Don't you usually prefer to drive the Cullinan?" The person I like is still in college, so I naturally need to be young and showy to avoid being eyed by some arrogant people. People should know their place. I laughed and quietly watched Jiao, who was touching the luxury car not far away. If she dared to scratch the car even a millimeter, I would sue her until she was bankrupt. But apparently, she also realized her current situation and reluctantly withdrew her hand. "Okay, the farce is over. Let's go to the restaurant quickly. I'm starving." Lucy's words skillfully broke the silence, and I quickly dragged her and Lu Sun away, but Xiaohe called out to me again. Much to my annoyance, "Are we that familiar? Do you know how much time I've wasted listening to your nonsense? If you're sick and have no money, go earn it. If you can't, go beg on the street." Apparently, Xiaohe cared a lot about his self-esteem and couldn't bring himself to beg. I learned from the bullet comments that Xiaohe was stimulated by me that day and started borrowing money to invest in stocks. With his memories of the previous life, he could find some loopholes to make a small fortune by thinking back a bit. But I wouldn't allow it, since they call me a vicious female supporting character. If I don't do something vicious, I'll be sorry for being scolded for so long. I kept an eye on Xiaohe's movements through the bullet comments. Whatever stocks he bought, I bought too. I even got Lu Sun and his sister to join me. After Xiaohe made hundreds of thousands of yuan, as expected, they couldn't resist increasing the leverage and adding more positions. Even Jiao's mother, her uncle, and his family joined in. I was happy to see that. The more people, the better. Once they took the bait, I directly shorted the stocks. All the savings that Xiaohe and Jiao had finally earned were gone. They lost everything. Meanwhile, Lu Sun, his sister, and I made a fortune. We each bought a villa and became neighbors. On the other side, Jiao's uncle felt cheated and caused trouble every day, demanding compensation. Jiao's gambling-addicted father went crazy and smashed all the furniture in the house. As a result, all the pressure fell on Jiao Jiao, and Xiaohe was severely hit by the stock losses, and his condition worsened again. He was hospitalized once more. He tried to find the doctor who operated on him in the previous life, but he couldn't find him. No wonder. The bullet comments said that in the previous life, I spent a fortune to invite the most authoritative doctor from overseas, chartering a plane to bring him back to operate on Xiaohe. It would be a miracle if he could find that doctor now. Jiao Jiao not only had to face the demands of her parents and uncle but also the high cost of Xiaohe's surgery. Jiao Jiao, who had been a bloodsucker all her life, couldn't stand being the one drained of resources for just half a month. She had a big fight with Xiaohe in the hospital and left him behind. And those bullet comments that had firmly supported the female lead began to waver. The female lead is going too far. She left the male lead when he needed support the most. 8 years of love couldn't withstand a little money. It's all the fault of the female supporting character. If she had been willing to pay for the male lead's treatment, the female lead and the male lead wouldn't have broken up. The male lead even humbled himself and begged the female supporting character to be her boyfriend, but she still looked down on him. Disgusting. But the female supporting character didn't know anything. She wasn't reborn. I ignored these comments and focused on applying for postgraduate studies abroad. My parents felt extremely guilty for believing the lies of the nanny and misunderstanding me before, so they decided to give me a subsidiary company to manage and get started. I naturally had to study hard to protect my property. Just hearing what the bullet comments said made me feel terrified. I didn't want to end up in a mental hospital, fighting with patients for food. Fortunately, I now have Lu Sun, a financial genius, by my side. With his guidance, I'm full of confidence. Time passed quickly at school, and the holiday came in the blink of an eye. Lu Sun specially reserved a restaurant to celebrate the holiday for me and Lu Shi. However, Lu Shi suddenly felt a stomachache. Yang Yang, you go with my brother first. I'll ask the driver to take me later. So I went to the restaurant with Lu Sun. It was only when I saw the pink balloons all over the floor and a whole wall of roses in the restaurant that I understood. I raised my eyebrows. Lu Sun, who was rarely nervous, took the bouquet of flowers and knelt down with his legs straight. I couldn't help laughing. Lu Sun smiled awkwardly and quickly changed to a single kneel. Sorry. I have no experience. Yang Yang, I know you want to focus on your studies now and are afraid that falling in love will be a distraction. I've been too afraid to confess my love to you. I wanted to stay by your side as Lu Shi's brother. I used to be confident that as long as I was good enough and showed up in front of you often enough, you wouldn't take a fancy to anyone else. But when Xiaoshi told me that you receive love letters almost every day at school, I really panicked. Oh. So that's why. I smiled and took the bouquet of flowers. With this grand gesture, I almost thought it was a proposal. But Lu Sun was right about one thing. Over the past 6 months, he had been constantly showing up, making it very difficult for me to notice other men. Although Lu Sun went abroad a long time ago and only came back once or twice a year, our time together during this period made us familiar with each other again. And compared to that freeloader Xiaohe, he was almost perfect. I couldn't find a reason to reject him. I was about to agree with a smile when someone from the back kitchen ran out with difficulty. I don't agree. It was only when the bullet comments flashed that I was sure the emaciated person in front of me was Xiaohe. The bullet comments had occasionally mentioned the situation of him and Jiao Jiao in the past 6 months, but it was nothing more than words like pitiful and working hard to earn money. Since I was doing well, I didn't have the mood to gloat, so I just forgot about it when I saw those comments. But I really didn't expect Xiaohe to be in such a miserable state now. He limped as he walked, and sweat dripped from his forehead with every step. The dark circles under his eyes covered half of his face, looking a bit terrifying. He was still holding a balloon in his hand. Su Yang, can you hear me? I don't agree. I rolled my eyes in annoyance. What does your agreement have to do with me, Xiaohe? We don't seem to have any relationship, do we? Yes, we do, he replied in a hurry but was too ashamed to say more. Su Yang, stop playing games at this point. I know you have feelings for me. My condition really can't be delayed any longer. And I've also broken up with Jiao Jiao. I promise to be your boyfriend, even if, he gritted his teeth and looked at me hatefully, even if there are 3 of us, it's okay. I was speechless. And Lu Sun directly stood in front of me. That's completely out of the question. Yang Yang and I are old-fashioned and don't go for such things. Our families would never allow it either. I nodded in agreement. Since he had already ruined the beautiful atmosphere, I had no intention of paying attention to him. Moreover, the bullet comments were once again feeling sorry for Xiaohe, the male lead, without really understanding the situation, which really affected my mood. I directly suggested to Lu Sun that we change the place to celebrate. As for Xiaohe, he had already been kicked out of the restaurant by the people Lu Sun called. I'm afraid his hard-won job was also gone, but if I had known that changing the place would mean meeting Jiao Jiao, I would never have agreed to it. Jiao Jiao, unaware of this, had the nerve to bring up the past with me. However, her reminiscence was soon interrupted by a phone call. Jiao Jiao answered the phone impatiently. Who is it? I'm busy. What? 1:20. Oh, Xiaohe fainted again. What does that have to do with me? We broke up a long time ago. She angrily hung up the phone and then looked at me with a flattering smile. The bullet comments couldn't hold back anymore and began to criticize her one after another. After all, they had 8 years of relationship. Won't the female lead go and see the male lead when the hospital calls? Love that can only share the good times but not the bad is ridiculous. I wonder if they regret being reborn. This life seems really awful. I don't know if Xiaohe and Jiao Jiao regret it, but I'm definitely satisfied with my current choices. People should do things that suit their status. If you take something that doesn't belong to you, you will pay the price. Seeing that Jiao Jiao was almost clinging to me, I directly called the bar owner and told him all about her past in front of her. Since I'm already labeled as a vicious female supporting character, I might as well be completely vicious. After all, she asked for it by trying to disgust me. Xiaohe woke up to the noise. Seeing the familiar ceiling, he felt a sense of relief. He was glad to be alive. The memory of his death in the previous life was still vivid, and he was extremely afraid of dying. But living like this now, it seemed better to be dead. The nurse soon noticed that he had woken up and, as before, told him how critical his condition was and urged him to raise money for the surgery as soon as possible. The patient in the same ward comforted him and even suggested that he try crowdfunding, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. In the previous life, he had humbled himself and married into the Su family, which had already broken his spirit. In this life, he just wanted to live with dignity, but it seemed that he had unknowingly cut off all his own paths. He despised himself and fell into self-doubt. After learning that the hospital had contacted Jiao Jiao but she had hung up the phone, Xiaohe remembered the previous life. When Su Yang had sat quietly by his hospital bed, watching over him, he felt a pang of regret. Maybe Su Yang wasn't so bad after all. Was pride really that important? Compared to death, it didn't seem to matter much. Clenching his fists, Xiaohe stood in front of the familiar gates of the Su family's residence. Hesitant and indecisive, with great difficulty, he mustered the courage to call Su Yang, only to hear the prompt that her phone was turned off. Enduring the pain, Xiaohe knocked on the Su family's door with his crutch. He thought that since Su Yang had caused him to lose his job and had made him so emotional that he fainted and was hospitalized, she should be responsible. But when he learned that Su Yang, along with the Lu siblings, had each bought a villa with the money they made from stocks and had moved there to be neighbors, he was stunned. When will Su Yang be back? His illness really couldn't wait any longer. The Su family's security guard gave Xiaohe a disdainful look and said coldly, I'm not authorized to tell you. Xiaohe panicked completely. He was afraid that Su Yang would truly slip out of his grasp and never belong to him again. Now that he wasn't even Su Yang's legal husband, he had no right to inherit her property at all. Xiaohe was taken aback, and then he realized, that's right, in this life, he had announced his relationship with Jiao Jiao early on. Between him and Su Yang, there was no relationship at all. Xiaohe was completely desperate. He couldn't think of any way to turn this situation around. He wandered the streets in a daze. Just like the day he had learned of his cancer and reunited with Jiao Jiao, by chance, he saw Jiao Jiao, whom he hadn't contacted for a long time. Jiao Jiao was clinging to a pot-bellied, balding man and had just come out of a hotel. The man took out several red banknotes from his wallet, and Jiao Jiao smiled as she took them, then leaned in for a kiss. Xiaohe felt a sudden wave of nausea. Jiao Jiao's appearance was truly disgusting to him. Just as he was about to turn and leave, he saw Jiao Jiao's mother and her uncle running over. Without a word, they snatched the cash from Jiao Jiao's hand. Xiaohe was stunned for a moment, then smiled with relief. He suddenly felt that the pain in his body wasn't so intense anymore, but as the relief faded, the pain returned. Xiaohe suddenly regretted it. If he had known what kind of person Jiao Jiao was, why had he opposed Su Yang for her sake? Now he had lost everything. If he could do it all over again. Staggering into the middle of the road, he looked at the blinding lights in the distance. Since being reborn was possible, could he be reborn again? As soon as I got off the plane, I learned about Xiaohe's foolish act from the non-stop screaming of the bullet comments, but judging from the comments, Xiaohe had finally retreated to the sidewalk in the end. After all, someone who had died once would surely cherish their life. I didn't give it much thought and started my trip. Unfortunately, the vacation was too short. And before I knew it, it was time to go back to school. I said goodbye to my parents with reluctance and returned to the country with Lu Sun. The bullet comments still appeared occasionally, trying to get my attention. I heard that Xiao He had finally swallowed his pride and, using his relatively good-looking appearance, had humbly asked for help online. He had even set up a crowdfunding page. In the end, he managed to raise enough money for the surgery. However, his cancer cells had already spread, and both of his legs had been amputated. Now, even taking care of himself was a problem. As soon as I got home, Butler Gu told me that Xiao He had come to see me again some time ago and had even sent me a gift. The moment Butler Gu took it out, I closed my eyes in disgust. It was a cheap snow globe that looked shabby at first glance, but the bullet comments said that it was a gift carefully chosen by the male lead. I remember that in the previous life, the male lead went to many places to buy the snow globe for the female supporting character. The female supporting character was overjoyed and gave the male lead a watch worth 2 million yuan in return. Is the male lead trying to rekindle the female supporting character's feelings for him? But a 2 million yuan watch meant nothing to me, and this snow globe wasn't even worth a second glance from the dog at home. I told Butler Gu to throw it away in disgust and happily looked at the antique I had auctioned off a few days ago. Lu Sun really liked such things, so I secretly bought it as a gift for him. When it came to gifts, the thought behind them was always more important, whether it was carefully prepared or just a perfunctory gesture. I might not know about others, but I knew myself well. The 2 million yuan watch only touched the bullet comments and Xiao He, with the start of school approaching. I officially began managing my company, but the villa I was living in was too far from both the school and the company, so I simply bought an apartment and moved in, and coincidentally, became neighbors with Lu Sun. The bullet comments gradually became fewer and fewer. The few that remained were filled with sighs and lamentations. I heard that Jiao had been rejected by her parents and uncle, and in the end, they had forced her into the bed of an old man. She had to be his mistress every day to support her family. It was the same ending as in the previous life, just through a different path. After some time, the already scarce bullet comments came to an abrupt end when Xiao He pushed his wheelchair into the sea and committed suicide. An hour later, I received a call from the police, saying that Xiao He had left a letter for me. Miss Su, are you available to come and pick it up? I looked at Lu Sun standing at the door and smiled softly. No. I'm not. It's not something important. Just throw it away. Story 2. In my previous life, I suffered domestic abuse at the hands of my husband and secretly moved out with my daughter. I repeatedly instructed my daughter not to disclose our new address. She agreed verbally but then turned around and told my husband the address. I was beaten to death by my husband in a rental apartment. My daughter sobbed pitifully. What did I do wrong? I just wanted a complete family. Fine, in this life, you can stay locked up with your dear father. When I was reborn, I was in the middle of packing to move. My husband, Zhang Guotao, was a vicious abuser who not only hit and yelled at me regularly but also threatened to kill my daughter and me if I ever thought about divorce. To escape from Zhang Guotao, I took the opportunity when he was out drinking with friends to flee to another city with my daughter, Xin. Fearing he would find us, I changed my phone number, cut off contact with all previous acquaintances, and repeatedly instructed Xin never to contact Zhang Guotao again. Xin obediently nodded in agreement but secretly messaged Zhang Guotao when I wasn't looking, saying she missed her dad. Zhang Guotao sweet-talked Xin and easily got our address from her. He came after us that same night. He kicked down the door of the rental house and beat me mercilessly. I couldn't defend myself and was beaten to death. The incident caused a huge uproar locally. Facing reporters, Xin tearfully said, "What did I do wrong? I just wanted a complete family. If mom hadn't secretly run away, dad wouldn't have been so furious to hit her that hard." Later, in court, she testified that Zhang Guotao had killed me accidentally and had not intended to murder me. He was ultimately convicted of abuse and served only 5 years in prison before being released. When Zhang Guotao was released, Xin had grown up. They lived happily together, having seemingly forgotten about me. Sadly, my life was tragic. Having given birth to the very person who would betray me, by some miracle, I was reborn. A tide of hatred surged within me, shaking me to my core. Just then, the door was pushed open and Xin, with her hair in a ponytail, walked in. Seeing the half-packed suitcase on the floor, she frowned slightly with a hint of dissatisfaction. "Mom, are you planning to take me and run away from home again?" She kicked the suitcase towards the wall and continued without waiting for my response. "Mom, you're too sensitive. Dad works hard to make money every day, it's not easy for him, he just lost his temper and hit you a couple of times, and you make such a big deal out of it. Running away from home doesn't solve anything. Dad will still find us, and you'll get beaten again." Hearing my daughter's cold words, just like in my past life, my heart sank. Could it be, overwhelmed by deep hatred? Before I could finish my thoughts, I blurted out my suspicion. "Was it always you who told Zhang Guotao where we were?" Perhaps intimidated by the fierce look I had never shown before, Xin, who had been impatient moments ago, instinctively stepped back and muttered, "I had to tell him quickly while Dad was cooling off. Or did you want me to be homeless forever?" So that was it. Before, every time Zhang Guotao beat me, I would take my daughter and hide at my parents' place. After my parents passed away, the old house was quickly sold by my brother and his wife. With nowhere to go, I took my daughter and hid in hotels. No matter how far or secluded the hotel, Zhang Guotao always found us quickly. I never understood how Zhang Guotao, a mere bus driver, could have such reach. It turned out it was all because of the betrayal right in front of me. Old grievances and new hatreds piled up. And I couldn't control myself any longer. I raised my hand and fiercely slapped my daughter across the face. She never dreamed I would hit her. Holding her face, she looked at me with eyes full of hatred. "How dare you hit me?" "I did hit you." I slapped her 2 more times. Seeing the swollen imprints of my fingers on her face, the flames of my anger were slightly quenched as I cursed lowly, "Heartless wretch, get out." The little wretch glared at me viciously. At only 8 years old, her malevolent appearance was strikingly similar to that beast, Zhang Guotao. I kicked her out of the door, fearing that another glance would make me unable to resist killing this ungrateful girl on the spot. Outside the door, the ungrateful girl burst into tears, kicking the door and cursing furiously. "You wait, I'm going to call my dad to come back and kill you." "Wait, I'm actually curious to see how she'll survive without my protection, under the mercy of Zhang Guotao, who favors sons over daughters." Looking down at the suitcase, it was mostly filled with the girl's daily necessities and clothes. What a pity, after all these years of thankless toil, I don't even own a decent piece of clothing myself. Now, I don't need any of this. Thinking that Zhang Guotao would soon be back, I threw the contents of the suitcase outside, grabbed only my ID and phone, and hurried out the door. I had already bought a train ticket, but to avoid being found by Zhang Guotao, I decided to buy a plane ticket to another city instead, without the burden of that ungrateful girl. Every procedure went smoothly. 2 hours later, I boarded the plane and left the city where I had lived for over 30 years. Unlike in my previous life, this time I didn't rush to discard my old phone number but kept it in a spare phone. She thinks Zhang Guotao is so great, doesn't she? I'd like to see how she manages to live a fairy tale life under his rule without me slaving away to keep the household running. I thought Zhang Guotao might show some fatherly affection because of her repeated betrayals, but it turns out I overestimated him. As soon as I landed, my phone was bombarded with messages. Opening the chat app, the first thing that caught my eye was the image of the girl with a bruised face, accompanied by Zhang Guotao's fierce voice message, "Han Mei, if you know what's good for you, get back here, or I swear I'll kill this worthless girl." Zhang Guotao was abusive towards me and never spared our daughter when beating her. It was only because I always desperately shielded her that she avoided his worst abuses. I thought she would understand my sacrifices and endure, but instead, she was under the illusion that Zhang Guotao would only hit me, not her. But karma has indeed come swiftly. If it were my past life, I would be breathlessly heartbroken now, but today I only feel relieved, even smiling a bit more. After some thought, I replied, "She is your daughter. I trust you can take good care of her. Good luck." After sending the message, I turned off my phone. Once there's a first time for hitting, it never stops. This grand drama of fatherly love has just begun, and I need to be fully energized to watch it unfold. A week later, when I turned on the spare phone again, it was bombarded with notifications, showing over 500 missed calls. I lightly swiped my finger across the screen, and my sharp eyes caught a familiar yet strange phone number. Chen Shuang. Chen Shuang was my cousin-in-law, who, like me, lived under the shadow of domestic abuse. One severe instance, her husband threw her out of a second-floor window, breaking her leg on impact. Before the cast on her leg was even removed, she was beaten again, injuring her organs. Due to our similar tragic experiences, Chen Shuang and I had a particularly close relationship, and we talked about everything. Before I left City A in my past life, I reluctantly messaged Chen Shuang to say goodbye. She insisted on having a meal with me before I left, but I refused because I was in a hurry to catch the train. Later, I found out that after receiving my message, Chen Shuang immediately called Zhang Guotao and, under his instruction, planned to trap me, if I had gone to meet her. I wouldn't have needed the ungrateful girl to betray me. I might have been killed that very day. Back then, I couldn't understand why, as a fellow victim of domestic violence, she would so maliciously push me towards death. Now, I understand. Her mentality had been twisted and perverted by the daily beatings. She could only feel better if I, like her, was beaten by my husband and even more severely. She can only feel satisfied if she ensures I never escape misfortune. It's like the crabs in a fresh market. When one tries to escape, another immediately pulls it back down. They must all end up as the meat on the chopping board together. In short, Chen Shuang, just like my ungrateful daughter, is nothing but a malevolent spirit-aiding tyranny. She definitely deserves a part in my plan for revenge. As if by some psychic connection, just as I was lost in thought, Chen Shuang's call came through again. A slight smile played at the corner of my lips as I gently pressed the answer button. Chen Shuang seemed momentarily stunned to have her call answered, then quickly started scolding. Han Mei, where have you run off to, neglecting even your child? Do you know that Xin was almost beaten to death by Zhang Guotao? Almost beaten to death, but not quite. That's truly a pity, remembering the day I left. The impatient and venomous face of my dear daughter, I sighed softly, mimicking her tone lightly. Xin said, since her dad works so hard outside, getting hit by him occasionally doesn't count for much. She just has to endure it, and it will pass. Isn't my little ingrate fond of others' generosity? I should think she'd be thrilled with such a generous opportunity. I know you've been wronged. Which household doesn't face bumps? Hurry back, otherwise, if Zhang Guotao really loses his temper, it'll be too late. Such absurdity. I couldn't help but retort, what can he do if I don't return? People can't float around outside their whole life. Chen Shuang's tone carried a clear frustration of iron not turning into steel. Han Mei, you're usually so smart. How can you be so confused now? Men are inevitably more impulsive when they're young, but as they grow older, they lose the strength to hit. You're almost through the worst. Why can't you see that? Chen Shuang's bizarre logic completely dumbfounded me. No wonder she ended up being abused to the point of wearing a colostomy bag for life without ever thinking of escaping. It's true what they say, character determines fate. Some people's awareness truly matches the suffering they endure. Thinking I was persuaded by her silence, Chen Shuang became even more energetic. Hurry back. I'll talk to Zhang Guotao and get him to go easy on you. Don't be ungrateful. Am I so despicable that I should be grateful for being beaten? Chen Shuang's shameless remarks actually made me laugh. I replied indifferently, if you're willing to live like this, then by all means continue. I'm not like you. I'm not that self-degrading. Chen Shuang was choked by my retort, immediately becoming furious. Zhang Guotao is already looking everywhere for you. He even threatened to dig up your parents' graves. Don't say I didn't warn you. These words sounded familiar. In my previous life, Zhang Guotao had threatened me more than once, but never acted on it. He didn't dare. Although my brother is distant and reluctant to support me against Zhang Guotao, he would never stand by and watch him desecrate my parents' graves. Wouldn't that turn him into a laughingstock of the entire town? Let him dig if he dares. If he doesn't, he's nothing but a coward. Knowing Chen Shuang's nature, she must have secretly recorded this conversation. I said disdainfully without hiding my contempt. With how advanced the internet is nowadays, he'd better go online and play the victim, accuse me of abandoning him and our daughter. He might even become an internet celebrity, turn his life around with live streaming. With that, I hung up the phone. Yes, the reason I answered Chen Shuang's call was to make sure she passed the last few words to Zhang Guotao. God, when planning to destroy someone, first makes them mad. Zhang Guotao has always liked to play the victim. Every time he hit me, he would immediately kneel down, slap himself, and cry, begging for forgiveness. With such good acting skills, it's only right to leverage them for a bigger impact. I intend to completely ruin him, turn him into a pariah shunned by all. I turned off the backup phone. I headed out to the nearest supermarket and stocked up, filling the fridge and cabinets of my rented apartment to the brim. As expected, it wasn't long before I encountered my first real-life doxing and cyberbullying. Walking outside meant risking exposure at any moment, so it seemed wiser to stay home and watch dramas. I'm not sure if it was Chen Shuang's lightning-fast gossiping or Zhang Guotao's eager desire to become an internet celebrity and strike it rich. I thought that even with my guidance, it would take a couple of days for things to ferment, but to my surprise, the drama escalated that very evening and became a hot topic online. In the video, Zhang Guotao, with his sly daughter in tow, put on a poor performance. The father-daughter duo wept bitterly. accusing me of being a habitual drunkard who frequently resorted to verbal and physical abuse. They claimed they had only tried to advise me, yet I ran away from home without a trace. To gain sympathy, they debased themselves, repeatedly admitting their mistakes and promising never to stop me from drinking again, and to endure any abuse without retaliation, if only I would come back home. At the video's end, they didn't forget to attach close-up photos of me and my ID. Fearing the cyberbullying wasn't personal enough, a woman with a drinking problem, such a rarity wouldn't just be unheard of in modern China, but in the vast expanse of human history. It's impressive how Zhang Guotao could tell such blatant lies without batting an eye. Unfortunately, in the online world, where people's capacities vary widely, any absurd statement can be believed if the performance is convincing enough. Zhang Guotao's tearful accusations quickly garnered much sympathy, of course. Most of this sympathy soon turned into harsh criticism and insults directed at me, with many suggesting Zhang Guotao divorce me and keep his daughter away from such a vile person. Zhang Guotao then showcased his good husband persona again, tearfully professing his deep love for me. With snot and tears, he sobbed uncontrollably into the camera, "Wife, I know I don't make much money, and you've always despised me for being unambitious. If you come back, I promise to work 2 jobs every day and give you all the money. Wife, it's okay if you don't want to wash clothes or cook, I can take care of all that. Wife, I'll help our daughter with her homework, take her to and from school, just stay with me, and I'll do anything you say." Their daughter also cried bitterly, "Mom, I won't eat snacks anymore, I'll study hard and help with the chores. Mom, if you lose your temper and hit me again, I promise I won't fight back or talk back." What a joke. In nearly 10 years of marriage, when has Zhang Guotao ever lifted a finger to do any chores? The paltry sum of 2,000 yuan he gives for household expenses each month has to be begged for, time and again, often followed by a beating before he hands it over. As for his manipulative daughter, I've showered her with nothing but love since she was born, treating her so gently as if she might melt in my mouth. No matter how troublesome she was, I never laid a finger on her. Regrettably, I was too foolish in my past life, always hoping to rescue her from misery, blind to the fact that she, too, was complicit in our torment. I was so furious I trembled, wishing I could reach through the camera and tear apart the deceitful and disgusting faces of Zhang Guotao and his daughter. Sadly, now is not the time for action. I must endure a few more days. In the video, their nauseating performance continued, after Zhang Guotao had his fill of crying. He didn't forget to ask netizens to help locate me, generously claiming that there would be a reward for anyone who could find me. Look at that, his loving husband persona is so solidly built, it's heartbreaking to smell and tear-inducing to see. A pitiful man easily garners sympathy, and a pitiful, love-struck man even more so. I watched as Zhang Guotao's newly created social media account quickly grew from a few hundred followers to over 100,000, with the number still rising. In the comments section, netizens from various places had already begun a spontaneous search for me. Every moment, photos of women who looked similar to me were being uploaded to the comments section for Zhang Guotao to verify if they were his beloved wife. Unfortunately, none of this is me, and the results are naturally disappointing. On one hand, various netizens are eagerly searching for me online. On the other, as Zhang Guotao's personal account skyrockets in followers, brands have approached him, hoping to capitalize on this popularity by having him promote their products through live streaming. Everyone knows that live streaming to sell products can make you rich overnight, but it generally takes time to establish a solid persona and proceed gradually. However, Zhang Guotao lacks such foresight and quickly started a pattern of eliciting sympathy while selling products. Although this tactic alienated some people, it also drew a supportive audience, making his live streams lively and popular. Riding on his tales of woe, he experienced an overnight transformation from an ordinary person to a celebrity, a scenario he probably never dreamed of. Luckily, I was prepared and had already been living as a recluse, hardly leaving my house, walking on the street now. It's quite possible that a well-meaning netizen might spot me and send my whereabouts to Zhang Guotao. How should I describe such behavior? It's sometimes a kind of kindness to meddle without being too presumptuous. My online account was created with a new phone number, unknown to anyone. My previous phone has been off for a while, unaffected by exploding messages, and my current address is unknown to anyone, as long as I don't go out. This online assault can't touch me. It's time to take the initiative. Thinking this, I turn on my seldom used spare phone and send Zhang Guotao a message. Zhang Guotao, you filled the mouths of kind-hearted netizens with lies and incited others to cyberbully me. Has your conscience been eaten by a dog? Zhang Guotao keeps his phone close, and it wasn't long before he replied. He isn't foolish and knows that speaking recklessly now could leave evidence for me, so he starts to perform earnestly. My wife, you finally replied to my message. I was wrong. I truly was. Please come home. I'll do anything if you just come back. After that, he calls, although I know Zhang Guotao is prepared, probably still playing the victim. I start recording the call when I pick up. My wife, I know you despise me for not making enough money, for being a loser, but now I'm an internet celebrity. I can support you. Please come back. See, his persona is still intact. I thought hearing Zhang Guotao's voice again would shake me with rage, but at this moment, I am more restrained. I take a deep breath and say coldly, Zhang Guotao, a lie is still a lie. Over the years, you've left me covered in scars. These scars don't lie. As soon as I show up, your lies would be easily exposed. My wife, what are you talking about? When have I ever hit you? Zhang Guotao's tone is clearly nervous, but he suppresses it. My wife, I did all this for our family's sake. You wouldn't want our daughter to suffer, right? With these words, he threatens me again, using our daughter as leverage. You've never loved me or our daughter. We were just tools for your twisted, perverse venting. While Zhang Guotao is feeling smug, I coldly threaten, I'm warning you to stop your pathetic act now, or don't blame me for exposing your vile face and leaving you ruined. After hanging up, I turn off the spare phone again. Zhang Guotao is a desperate, ineffectual villain who, despite his popularity, will stop at nothing to seize this unexpected fortune. Anyone who poses a threat to him, he will try to eliminate at all costs. Now, as someone who could expose his true nature at any moment, I am like a ticking time bomb, which he will undoubtedly want to defuse at all costs. Unfortunately for him, I've hidden myself too well. He couldn't find any trace of me at all, to no avail. Now, he faces two choices. The first is to treat the treacherous ingrate even more harshly, to make me, her mother, unable to bear it and compromise. The second is to hire illegal cyber hackers to locate my phone and find me. However, since my phone is turned off, even if he hires hackers, it might not be useful. In comparison, beating the ungrateful child seems more cost-effective. The ungrateful child is so reliant on her seemingly good father, enduring more beatings for his wealth and status, likely savoring it as sweet. I curled my lips, revealing a smile of relief. The trap is set, and there's nothing left for me to do. I spend my days leisurely in my rental, eating and drinking, occasionally checking the trending topics online, and the home surveillance. Yes, in my past life, I never gave up on divorcing Zhang Guotao. To collect evidence of his domestic abuse and gain an advantage in the divorce, I had already secretly installed miniature cameras at home. As things spiraled out of control, I almost fled with the ungrateful child in panic. Without the chance to dismantle the cameras, it was only after boarding the plane in this new life that I suddenly remembered. Thus, I used Chen Shuang's words to nudge Zhang Guotao into playing the victim online. These days, news spreads quickly, and Zhang Guotao, tasting the sweetness of internet fame, would surely become more reckless. I am waiting for that recklessness. Human nature often forgets itself in pride, and Zhang Guotao is a prime example. His downfall at his proudest moment, losing everything he gained, even becoming a despised figure everyone shuns, would be the most heart-wrenching. I intend to severely crush Zhang Guotao once and for all, ensuring he can never recover. Perhaps because my past life was so bitter, fate seems to be on my side. I initially just wanted to capture videos of Zhang Guotao hitting me and the ungrateful child, but to my surprise, their pitiful videos online were shot in the living room, clearly captured by the high-definition cameras. In one moment, Zhang Guotao was sobbing tearfully with his daughter on camera. The next, as soon as the video ended, he callously threw her aside, cursing and hitting her. Zhang Guotao has been abusive for years, and hitting had become a habit. As soon as the ungrateful child was thrown to the ground, before she could get up, he kicked her fiercely, cursing continuously, "Useless burden, go make some good dishes for me right now. You've delayed my drinking. I'll kill you if you make me wait." "Dad, please don't be angry. I understand." The ungrateful child had been beaten frequently these days, her body bruised and battered, and she had become timid and hesitant, not daring to retort, quickly getting up to head to the kitchen. Before she could reach the kitchen, Zhang Guotao spoke again in annoyance. "After cooking, continue calling your mom. No matter what, you must find her. If she doesn't show up, I'll throw you out the window." As he spoke, Zhang Guotao's face twisted into a demonic sneer. If not for still needing the ungrateful child, he might have thrown her out already. The ungrateful child shuddered, a sycophantic smile forming on her face as she ingratiatingly said, "Don't worry, Dad, since Mom can still receive your calls, it means she checks that phone. I tricked her by saying I was desperate enough to slit my wrists and even sent her a photo of a wrist cutting from the internet. She loves me so much. She will surely come back soon. Zhang Guotao knew how much I loved the ungrateful child, and his expression softened slightly after hearing this. That's more like it. Hatred filled the ungrateful child's eyes as she gritted her teeth. Mom just ran away, trying to ruin Dad's way of earning money. She deserves to die. This time when she comes back, Dad must kill her. Originally, I thought the ungrateful child was just spoiled and selfish, but she turned out to be so malicious. In order to avoid being beaten by Zhang Guotao, she lied to lure me back, completely disregarding my life and death. Indeed, had she sought help earlier in my past life, I might not have endured so much suffering. I certainly wouldn't let Zhang Guotao beat me to death. In this second chance at life, I'm glad I woke up in time and decisively gave up on her. Otherwise, she would have doomed me once again. She deserved it. Enjoy your perfect father and the benefits that come with him in the future. I chuckled coldly with satisfaction, saved the evidence I had, and logged off the monitoring system. There was so much evidence that it took me 2 whole days to sort through it all. During these days, Zhang Guotao continued to overact, intensifying his tragic act online and even displaying award-winning acting skills. He claimed that his heartache over missing me triggered a heart attack. He even knelt down during a live broadcast, begging me to come back in a low voice. Ah, who would have thought such devoted and loyal men still existed nowadays? A rare gem indeed. And even rarer is a lover like him. Exactly. More and more people began praising Zhang Guotao, and the numbers supporting him by donating and increasing his online visibility grew. There were occasionally a few skeptical remarks, crying and kneeling at the drop of a hat to ask for forgiveness. Isn't that typical of an abuser? Maybe things aren't as he describes. Yeah, let's not rush to conclusions. There might be a twist to this story, right? However, these rational voices were in the minority and soon drowned out by the overwhelming support for Zhang Guotao. Zhang Guotao grew more arrogant, frequently engaging in ambiguous interactions with his female co-worker, Chen Jingjing, and even blatantly bringing her home under the pretense that she was a helpless little lamb needing care. In front of Chen Jingjing, Zhang Guotao expressed his weariness of me and planned to slander me completely, ruin my reputation, then divorce me. He intended to use his perceived status as a victim to become an internet celebrity and flamboyantly marry Chen Jingjing. All of this was captured clearly by the camera I had installed at home. I really should thank this despicable pair for falling precisely into the trap I had set. Every step they took, heaven may forgive their sins, but self-inflicted woes warrant no sympathy. Seeing the right moment, I stopped holding back. I logged into my old social media accounts and laid out all the evidence, exposing all of Zhang Guotao's lies. I then handed over this well-documented evidence to the police and formally filed for divorce. In recent days, I had also mastered the tricks of the internet, investing money to boost traffic. My response post quickly made it to the trending topics, causing a significant uproar. The public loves a spectacle but hates being manipulated. My counterattack was swift and fierce. Each photo and video hit Zhang Guotao hard, leaving him no room to refute the compelling evidence. Soon, journalists sought me out. I appeared on camera unafraid, detailing the inhumane domestic abuse I had suffered at Zhang Guotao's hands over the years. The scars of abuse are indelible, and despite the time passed, I couldn't help but tear up as I recounted those painful memories. Wiping away my tears, I spoke clearly into the camera. Domestic abuse only happens once or repeatedly. I hope all the sisters suffering from domestic abuse watching this can bravely stand up and resist, not passively endure and ruin their lives. Taking a moment to compose myself, I continued earnestly, nor should you tolerate it just to provide a complete family for your children. Good children will understand that you are leading them away from misery, and those who do not support you do not deserve your attachment. A woman must prioritize herself first, then be a mother to her children. I refuse to bear children who would stab me in the back. Countless women endure the torment of domestic abuse, and while many have become numb and submissive like Chen Shuang, even aiding their abusers, I still hope to awaken them with my own experiences. Even if only one person is enlightened, it is a profoundly meritorious deed. Meanwhile, I called Zhang Guotao's company to report his misconduct. Employing such a person was a disgrace to the company. Was this social death? Absolutely, and it needed to be comprehensive. Especially within his circle of acquaintances, Zhang Guotao, a despicable creature, should be stomped into a filthy ditch, never to rise again. Suddenly, the public was in an uproar. Wherever Zhang Guotao went, he was pointed at and ridiculed, subjected to scorn and abuse. He shrank back, not daring to retort a single word. This was hardly surprising, as domestic abusers typically exhibit one common trait. They are bullies at home but cowards outside. No one would have guessed that Zhang Guotao, who seemed too gentle to even step on an ant outside, could turn into a demon addicted to beating his wife once the door of his home was shut. In his past life, I maintained Zhang Guotao's dignity by believing the nonsense that family shame should not be aired in public, and aside from a few close people, I never mentioned his abusive behavior. The greater the contrast, the more completely his facade crumbled when his vile actions were exposed. Now, he has become synonymous with domestic abuse, constantly subjected to public pointing and whispering whenever he steps out. Besides me, the victim, there were many others suffering from domestic abuse who, filled with righteous indignation, reported Zhang Guotao's reprehensible actions to the bus company, urging his dismissal for his disgraceful conduct. Already overwhelmed by Zhang Guotao's issues, the bus company's management used this as an opportunity to fire him. Citing his despicable character and the significant negative impact he had on the company, those who had previously donated money to him online also left messages asking for their money back. Unable to cope with such a psychological plummet, and certainly unable to refund the money that had already reached his pockets, Zhang Guotao closed his comment section and once again retreated into his shell. High rises he built, guests he entertained, and then his tower crumbled. Qin Jingjing had been with Zhang Guotao solely because of his internet fame and now, failing to gain as expected, naturally had no regrets about leaving. She declared herself deceived by Zhang, swiftly severed ties, and disappeared after resigning, taking advantage of Zhang Guotao's absence. Lost in his evasive, aimless existence, I hurried home to retrieve the diploma I had forgotten, having sacrificed so many years of my youth for the family, forsaking the opportunity to pursue further studies. It was time to make up for lost time. The little ingrate was sobbing on the sofa, but when she saw me enter, she immediately rushed over. "Mom, you finally came back for me. I knew you wouldn't leave me behind." Ha, such bizarre confidence. I wonder where she got it wholesale. I gave a cold laugh, shattering her naive illusions. "You thought wrong. I came back for my diploma." The little ingrate stared at me in stunned disbelief. Ignoring her, I quickly found the diploma in the main bedroom closet. Mom, perhaps frightened by Zhang Guotao these past days, she panicked when I turned to leave without a glance and grabbed at my clothes. "Mom, I was wrong. I was blind and foolish before. Please take me with you. I truly realize my mistake now. If apologies were useful, what would we need the police for?" I frowned slightly and shook off her hand without hesitation. From the moment she betrayed me, she ceased to be my daughter and became my sworn enemy. Moreover, she had betrayed me countless times. If I forgave her so lightly, then all the inhuman torment I endured before would have been deserved. To the little ingrate, I was undoubtedly her lifeline, and she quickly lunged again, clinging desperately to my arms. "Mom, I really didn't mean to give Zhang Guotao the address of Soho Garden. I was deceived by him. And then he threatened me." She suddenly stopped, perhaps realizing something was amiss, and said no more. My heart clenched painfully. Soho Garden was precisely where I was beaten to death by Zhang Guotao in my previous life. In this life, under my strategic planning, I never went to City B, nor did I rent a house in Soho Garden. How could the little ingrate know about it? Could it be, you were reborn? I fixed my gaze intently on Xiaobai, seeking a definitive answer from her expression. Feeling the intensity of my stare, Xiaobai shivered, her small frame trembling. "Mom, did you also?" "Yes, I was reborn too." In Xiaobai's horrified eyes, I quickly confirmed her suspicion and then slapped her. "I had no reason to forgive you before, and now even less so." Her betrayal wasn't a one-time event, nor did her sins begin at that moment. Had she not remembered her past life, I might have just let her fend for herself, but now that she recalls, she can't blame me for seeking vengeance. Every wrongdoing has its perpetrator, and this is what she deserves. Upon leaving the house, I removed Zhang Guotao's contact from the blacklist and sent him the recording of Xiaobai pleading with me to take her with me. Note: take care of your daughter and stop bothering me. Zhang Guotao was notoriously narrow-minded, viewing his wife and daughter as his personal property, meant only to be controlled and abused, never to resist. Now, with his frustrations at a peak, he needed an outlet. Xiaobai's groveling behavior in front of me would surely infuriate him. Only those who feel the knife's cut know its pain. Xiaobai used to say that hitting was a sign of affection, that Zhang Guotao's few slaps were nothing to fuss over. Let her truly endure Zhang Guotao's overwhelming love. Whether she survives his beatings is up to her fate. Zhang Guotao was a man of immediate action, seeking revenge without delay. That very evening, Xiaobai was beaten so severely that her cries were unbearable. But she was luckier than I had been in my past life. Some neighbor, unable to withstand her horrific screams, discreetly called the police. The police arrived in time to rescue Xiaobai, barely alive, and detained Zhang Guotao for 15 days. However, as it was merely considered a domestic dispute, Zhang Guotao spent his detention tearfully repentant, promising the police he had learned his lesson and would never strike his child again, after writing a pledge under police supervision. He was released. Xiaobai was hospitalized with multiple injuries for several days, as a victim of both domestic and cyber abuse. Now in need of recovery myself, I naturally couldn't care for her. The police had no choice but to bring my mother-in-law from the countryside, a staunch believer in male superiority. She had barely glanced at Xiaobai since her birth and was now quick to scold her. Unlucky money loser. Just because he hit you a few times, you dared to have your father arrested. You must be wishing for death. Why eat, starve, you disaster star? Go find your worthless mother quickly. Don't irritate me. Some people are born spineless. Over the past 8 years, despite my heartfelt care, Xiaobai never showed any gratitude, often sarcastically expressing dissatisfaction and continually betraying me. Now, facing the old shrew's hours of continuous cursing each day, she didn't dare utter a word. A scoundrel indeed grinds down another scoundrel. Well, this is exactly as I wished. A month's cooling-off period for divorce quickly passed. Accompanied by bodyguards and many journalists, I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to divorce Zhang Guotao. I had contributed to buying our house at marriage, but now I walked away with nothing, converting my share into a lump sum for Xiaobai's alimony, which I gave to Zhang Guotao. My lawyer was somewhat indignant. Miss Han, you're too kind. You're entitled to half of that house. I could get it for you. No need, I smiled and shook my head. Cornering a dog in an alley provokes a bite. Now that Zhang Guotao is jobless, with only this house left, if he loses half of it, he'll surely commit even more desperate acts. Although Zhang Guotao doesn't know my current address, in today's world of advanced information, it's best to be cautious. If he is determined to find me, one day he might just succeed. There are only temporary thieves, not eternal guards. It's better to suffer a loss and avoid disaster by making a clean break. As for money, now that I am free of burdens, why should I worry about not being able to earn it? The moment I received the divorce certificate, I slowly exhaled a breath of turbid air, feeling reborn. Zhang Guotao wanted to say something to me, but I refused to even glance at him again and walked away without looking back. As for the ungrateful wretch, either she learned her lesson from being disciplined by Zhang Guotao last time, or she realized I had also been reborn and finally gave up, for she did not show up at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Once outside the bureau, under the tight protection of my bodyguard, I got into the car. Upon entering the car, the bodyguard sighed with some regret. Sister Han, I noticed that Zhang Guotao had an axe tucked into his belt. I was ready to subdue him the moment he drew it. Intentionally injuring someone in public would have certainly landed him a few years in prison, but that coward didn't dare to pull it out with so many people around. I chuckled. He's just a coward, not just Zhang Guotao. All domestic abusers are cowards, daring only to bully their weaker wives and children, too timid to assert themselves outside. The bodyguard nodded in agreement, then changed to a lighter tone. Congratulations, Sister Han, on your new life. Thank you. I replied with a smile, turning my gaze out the window instinctively. At the street corner, a small figure quietly peeked out, watching my car drive away with a complex expression. The ungrateful wretch had come after all. Seeing her frail, thin figure, my heart involuntarily twitched, but it was just for a moment before returning to normal. I can't forget the despair of slowly dying under Zhang Guotao's beatings in my previous life. Even after so long, the pain of the blows remains vivid. I thought I had escaped from this misery, all because of the ungrateful wretch's betrayal. I can never forgive her, otherwise I would betray my past desperate self. I thought that would be the end of it. Unfortunately, I underestimated Zhang Guotao's malice. He forbade the ungrateful wretch from attending school, kept her at home to cook, clean, and serve him, beating her if she did anything unsatisfactorily. The ungrateful wretch, not one to suffer silently, secretly added rat poison to the soup and fed it to Zhang Guotao when he was drunk. Unfortunately, the rat poison was substandard and didn't kill him, only paralyzed him, leaving him bedridden for life. Cleverly, the ungrateful wretch insisted that Zhang Guotao, drunk, had mistaken the rat poison for seasoning and added it himself, clearing herself of any involvement. She was under 10, too young to be prosecuted, and with her convincing account and lack of evidence, the case was dropped. Zhang Guotao's only fate was endless torment. That night, I had a long dream. I dreamed that after being released from prison in my past life, Zhang Guotao lived briefly in harmony with the ungrateful wretch before remarrying a woman who soon got pregnant and had a son. With a son, Zhang Guotao grew colder towards his daughter, forcing her to work after middle school to support her brother. The ungrateful wretch tried to escape multiple times, only to be brutally dragged back each time.